This is the knockout artist, Kris Hero. And if you're looking for some true heel heat, you better listen to them boys.
Hey guys, it's Thunder Rosa and welcome to True Heel Heat.
What's up, guys? It's Wolverine, Death Machine, Mr. GMSI himself, Brian Cage, and you're watching True Heel Heat. Who better? Nobody.
Yo, what up? You know what it is. It's your boy AJ Francis reporting to you live from New York City, the birthplace of hip hop. And I'm telling you that I'm only tuned in with True Heel Heat Wrestling. Holla at me.
I'm serious. I'm not going to sit back and take this fucking shit.
Hello, hello, hello. It is me, your True Heel Phenom, SP3. We are live on the True Heel Heat YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter for AEW All Out 2024 review, breaking down one of the sickest and most violent mainstream wrestling pay-per-views of all time. And to do that, I am joined by my co-host over on the True Heel Heat Flagship podcast. He is the true draw himself. Josh, how are you doing?
Doing great. Yeah, that main event was something, I'll tell you, man.
I have never seen such violence that made me that uncomfortable in professional wrestling history.
Yeah, man. I thought the first time they did that, like in that, what was it?
The Texas Death Match.
The Texas Death Match. I thought that was something, but man, like, and I was wondering too, I'm like, how are they going to outdo that? And they definitely did that.
They definitely tried their best, and I never thought I would see a needle in a death match before, but here we are. It's 2024, and we've made it. And before that, we saw someone getting murdered. Plastic bag. So that's the type of show we're going to be discussing today. AEW All Out 2024. We appreciate y'all if you were watching us live. We appreciate y'all if you were watching us on demand. Remember to show your appreciation back the simplest way possible. Just drop the thumbs up on this video. You can share this video with all your wrestling fans, friends, and family on all your favorite social media platforms. If you are new to the True Heel Heat YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell to stay notified for all the great content here. And of course, sound off in the live chat. We love to interact with all of you guys and talk about last night's crazy show, an all-timer for AEW, and definitely one of the more memorable pay-per-views that they have ever put together. We want to hear your thoughts on it. We want to hear what you think, your hot takes, your questions, your thoughts. So sound off. But most of all, if you're feeling generous and you want to give back to what you do we do here, and you want to be a part of the conversation in the best way possible, you can send a super chat donation. Any dollar amount matters. It goes back to the contributors that you see on screen with us here. It helps the True Heel Heat YouTube channel keep running. And like I always say, I got 2 kids. They're getting big. So I always need that type of support for sure. After me staying up till 5 a.m. and oh my God, the main event woke me the hell up at like 4. It was like 4:15 when they did the video package. I was getting amped. Then I got some Coca-Cola in my system, a shot of caffeine, and just from the minute go, from the opening, someone trying to get maimed, with them trying to cut each other's heads off with the cage lowering, I was in there. I was in there for the whole ride. But the whole overall was just an adrenaline rush and gave you every type of professional wrestling you can enjoy. What is your kind of overall thoughts on what we saw last night, Josh?
It was like, damn. That's how I felt. Damn. Because, the show was overall great. There was a lot of violence, right? Not only the main event, we had the Moxley manhunt spot where he did to Danielson with the bag.
The Terry Funk spot.
The Terry Funk spot. I think he was also playing manhunt. Because I remember playing manhunt, and that was one of the ways you could get people was with the bag.
What? Nah, man. What type of childhood you been living? That's not how I played manhunt.
Yo, no, that was fun. No. I mean, you never heard of the video game Manhunt?
Oh, I thought you meant Manhunt.
Oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. Hell no. I would have done 25 years to life for that.
I was like, what type of kids you mean?
Oh, hell no.
I knew you grew up in the Bronx, but damn.
No. That was a video game. It was a legit video game called Manhunt. And like that was like legit one of the ways to get people. It was like legit like how you play Manhunt. It was like that. But in a video game, and it was violent and it was crazy. And then also, what else happened? Oh, Willow Statlander, that was also pretty violent. They said street fight. I'm like, Lady Shore was in a Texas Death Match. This is a lot for a street fight. I mean, I ain't complaining about it. It was just funny to me. I was just like, this ain't no damn street fight. This is all out war. Once I saw the light tubes, I'm like, damn.
Yep.
I
was like, now they're going ham. They're going. Once I get that, I was paying attention.
It was like GCW.
I was like, okay, yeah. We're put in a bad spot with having to follow the match you had to follow, but goddamn, did you get me into this one? You got me. You got me. You got the fans in Chicago. What a show it was. We want to hear from y'all. So let us know what you think. And okay, so we always start off our pay-per-view reviews here on the True Heel Heat YouTube channel with our one word overall to give your thoughts on the show. And I am going to say sick is my one word. What is yours, Josh?
Oh, what I said. Damn.
Perfect indeed. We already got in the live chat with us today, G. Loke, who says, what it do at True Heel Heat? Wow, what a damn show, LOL. Smash up the likes and let's go. We got I Make Beats, one of our members of the channel, who says, sup, guys? Great show. Happy weekend, y'all. We also got Christopher Kidd, who says, seen plenty of people down on this show, and I just don't understand it. 8 matches, a Mox BCC heel turn, and an all-timer of a rivalry. Christopher Kidd, this is more of a testament to you not taking care of your time. Because if you saw, I did not see plenty of people down, but maybe it's because I condition my timeline and I only do the following timeline. I don't have everybody else out there that wants to be down on stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's more of the, you know how it is. It's more the grifters, more the drones that are trying to find every way to try to discredit what one company does. That's basically what I've seen. It was more a complaint of like, oh, this is not pro wrestling. It's like, shut the fuck up. Like, ooh. You know, at this point, it's like, what is pro wrestling? Like, what WWE does is not pro wrestling. Like, so what are we complaining about at this point, right? You know, And yesterday, at least to me, and this is something I've been saying for years, right? I like the fact that AEW is an alternative. And I think that the shit that they're doing, I'm fine with it. Why? Because the time that AEW tried to be WWE 2.0, it didn't fucking work. Yeah. Right? It didn't fucking work, right? And that's not what people want, right? So at this point, I'm like, I like the direction that they're going, right? And they are doing storylines. They are doing storytelling, so nobody can complain about it now. But if they're going to focus on matches and, you know, stuff like this, stuff that we've been asking for years from pro wrestling when it comes to, like, matches being violent or whatever the case may be, so be it. I'm okay with it, right? WWE could do what they want to do, and AEW could do what they want to do. I like the fact. I like that. I got two different types of entertainment when it comes to the pro wrestling world, and I think that's okay.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you, and I think Tony Khan addressed that during the Pros Media Scrum, that it's been a while since we had like this type of like a contender to whatever is like the brand name. And WWE is the brand name. They're the number one professional wrestling company in the world today, but you need a damn alternative. And more than anything, what last night proved is that AEW can be the alternative, because you saw so much stuff on this show that you would never see on WWE. And I think that this, like I said, this is one of the most violent mainstream professional wrestling shows that I've seen in my 36 years of life. Like, this was just violence personified. Not only violence, you had state-of-the-art wrestling with like Ospreay versus PAC. You had good tag team wrestling with the Bucks versus BBC. You had a bona fide personal grudge match to kick off the main card. Like, it's just so much. It's like a smorgasbord. That is when AEW is at its best, when it gives you different type of professional wrestling up and down the card. And that's what All Out was. But more than anything, like you said, it proved that it can still be the leading source for an alternative to what WWE offers.
Yeah,
and yes, the storytelling. I heard this, and I've seen. The business is down, the ratings is down, the attendance is down, and that is all true. And if this was the True Hill Heat flagship podcast or AE Ramble, we always, week to week, we talk about that type of stuff. We talk about the ways that they can improve that type of stuff. But when you get a show like this, it's all about the quality of the show. When we're reviewing the show, when we're breaking it down, and I don't understand how you can complain about the quality of the show. And not only that, the attendance for the show was really good. They moved like 2,000 tickets in a week, proving that the Hangman and Swerve angle, at least for live sales, it paid off. They had anywhere between 8,500 to 9,000 people in attendance, and they were loud the entire night. This is what we want from AEW right now.
Yeah, and it is, when it comes to the attendance last night, they did great numbers, because I know the estimated projection was about between 5,000 to 6,000. So for them to do more than that, and they got to give credit for themselves, right? Because remember, those tickets moved not only after the Swerve angle, but that build up right after all in, like that week that they had to do something, and it made people like, oh shit, like I think this is going to be a really all-time card possibly. And then guess what? The numbers show it. You said over 2,000 tickets in a week. I think yesterday, just yesterday alone, I think it was about 300 to 400 tickets that moved before showtime. So it's a good night. It was a good night for them. Again, anything they could get, they're gonna get, right? So for them to draw that many and people didn't expect it, and that wasn't projected, and for them to go past that, that's a good sign.
And back-to-back years, man. All In is your card that you're going to get, like, the spectacle, the big-time stadium wrestling show. And then All Out is just top to bottom, just a pure wrestling smorgasbord of everything you would want. Why are you assaulting me again?
She tried to do the Moxley.
Everybody.
She tried. She
And say send super chat.
Send super chat.
She tried to do the Moxley.
No, thankfully we keep the plastic bats away from her. We got also in the chat with us, Power Driver Finisher. He says maybe one match, in my opinion, that was whatever. The other ones were crazy. They gave us moments that, if I thought about it, made sense. How we got this for maybe the Mox bag thing was the most over the top. Even that made a whole bunch of sense, because we were talking about since last week with Moxley's return and what it all meant. And we got the payoff instantly here 2 weeks later. And now we understand why he was hitting up and saying, Darby, I need to talk to you, because they done set up Darby to possibly win the AEW World Championship with the assault that they gave Bryan last night.
Yeah, it seems interesting. And, I think I feel like they're gonna do Darby and Danielson at Wrestle Dream. I feel like
that's at Grand Slam.
Oh, that's gonna be at Grand Slam.
Yeah.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
I thought just because I think they're from the same state, right? Darby and
Danielson? I think that the angle was more setting up. I think Moxley and Bryan is gonna be probably the Wrestle Dream main event if Bryan's able to get past Darby at Grand Slam.
That'd be a good move. I wouldn't mind that, especially after last night. I was like, what the hell just happened? Because honestly, I was more confused at first, right? Not with the whole Moxley thing, but yesterday, right? He comes out and he basically stops Christian Cage from cashing in his contract, right? So I was a little bit more confused by that, because I'm just like, wait a minute, hasn't this motherfucker been beating up everybody backstage? So now he's helping out. I'm like, all right, so I guess back, what they do, the Blackpool Combat Club, they go face when it's needed, they go heel when it's not needed, and then all of a sudden they're like, fuck this.
Dude, I thought he was gonna get in the ring and hit Bryan off like GP from the start, and then he did the whole hug and stuff. I was like, oh, that's nice. And then they raised their hand, and I was like, okay, so when is he going to assault them? Because you're not doing this whole thing and having a nice little moment with the Blackpool Combat Club. We did that all in already. That was 2 weeks ago. We ain't going to do so. I was like, Moxley's got to attack him in some way. And then Claudio wounds up and freaking European uppercut, and Bryan sold it great.
Speaking of Claudio, Eddie Kingston was right. Eddie Kingston
was right, but man, we'll talk about it when we get to that matchup and the angle. Wheeler Yuta put on the performance of his career. He he reacted, and he delivered the shock that everybody had watching that whole thing go down.
Did you see that video too? Did you see that video of William Regal that they've been posting it? They're like, that Danielson and Yuta are the ones that didn't learn like the lesson that his last lesson that he gave.
Exactly. Call back there. But we love to do pay-per-view review roundtables here. And you can't do a roundtable with just two people. Got to be more than two. So I've called on someone who's joined us for a few of the AEW pay-per-views this year, including Revolution and Double or Nothing. It's been a while since he's been on from the NWA podcast. The professor himself, Kris, is here. How you doing, Professor Kris?
Hey man, chilling. I was just this is a rare day off for me these days, so I'm glad to hop on and talk about the important stuff in life, like professional wrestling.
That's what it's all about. I know you've been busy working, teaching, doing your thing on the weekdays, and usually AEW does Sunday pay-per-views, so we have to do our reviews on Monday. But since this one was on a Saturday, I had to hit up Kris, see if he was available to join us. So I'm glad to see you.
Oh yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, I have to fly to the DMV, DC actually on Tuesday. I just left Vegas. Just kind of go into these swing states. I'm still trying to do that wrestling fans for Kamala Harris thing, talking to different like podcasters. I haven't gotten one wrestler yet, so I'm trying to see like who's gonna be the one to step up, So this is a process, man. But yeah, we're like I'm over here working, yo.
Gotta do it. Gotta do it.
And
We
plus,
got
I'm teaching 10 classes as well. So,
Jesus, this man, busy out here in these streets. But before we haven't even get into any of the matches. We've just been talking kind of overall thoughts. What is your overall thoughts on the show and your one word for last night's show, AEW All Out 2024?
So I had to speed watch it this morning, and it seemed like it was a pretty good show. I just heard you talking about the Wheeler stuff with him, like crying. I already thought he was corny, so this kind of gives it gives credence to the corniness, but it was for like the right reason, you know. Like it was like he was watching his dad get like murked, you know. It was really like I wish I would have saw it live. It was fun. It looks like.
Yeah, I wish. Yeah, that was the one thing. Probably this and like two of the matches. I was just like, man, I wish I was there live for that. That angle, I was like, oh my god, I don't even know what I'm watching right now.
Yeah. And that plastic bag thing, it seems like they did that before with in the 90s, I think.
Terry Funk did that to Ric Flair.
Terry Funk, that's what it was, where he was feuding with Ric Flair and they had the I Quit match. Okay, I was trying to remember, but yeah. But it worked. It definitely worked.
We got in the chat Aubrey James. He says Hangman and Swerve was nasty work. We also got Christopher Kidd who says no Jericho match, 5-star show. That's another reason I had to call Chris, because there was no Jericho match for him to have to skip.
Right, yeah, and yeah, I do kind of agree with that statement, because sometimes they try to like shoehorn him into places where it just really doesn't make sense for him to be on the show. So it was good to see him not on the show.
Yeah. But let's go very quickly through the 0 hour. This is typical AEW where they have an 8-match card. So they get, I think the count that I had before doing this show, 25 different people featured in matches on the pre-show. That's ridiculous, AEW, but I expect nothing less from you guys. We had first up the Acclaimed. They picked up a victory over the Iron Savages. This was a kind of a standard tag team fair. I think the biggest thing was the crowd reacted more to the power moves of the Iron Savages instead of like their comedy antics, and they seemed to favor the Iron Savages over the Acclaimed. The Acclaimed came off a lot more heelish, if you will, in this matchup, especially with Max Caster not doing his rap before the match. And they picked up the victory with the arrival into the mic drop for the 1, 2, 3. And MXM Collection were watching this match from the backstage area. Josh, what did you think about Clay picking up a win in the opener to the 0 hour?
I mean, match was okay, nothing special. The crowd reaction did kind of stick out for me because remember, this was the same tag team. What was it? 2 years ago, where things changed for them and they end up getting the titles, and then now you see how they are 2 years later, and they're still getting a reaction because of some of the stuff that they're doing. You know, the Scissor Me stuff and all that stuff. But you can see it's getting to that point where it's like, yeah maybe it's time to split them apart.
Either split them apart or turn them heel before you split them apart, something or another. But yeah, the Acclaim, I think their time has passed by. I gave the match 2 stars. It was kind of just there. Any thoughts from you, Chris?
Yeah, I didn't see the match, but I did see the reaction. I saw clips of it on Twitter. And I'm with you and Josh. I think it's one of those things where they've kind of done what they could do in AEW. It'd be nice if they could go to I always am in favor of people going to the competition when they've exhausted everything that they've done in the company that they're in, to go somewhere else and get a fresh coat of paint. So if they're going to continue with this shtick, take it somewhere else or break them up. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I think they should just break them up because Anthony Bowens is really good on his own, I think. Then you had a regular kind of AEW multi-man party matchup as it was ROH Tag Team Champions Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara teaming up with Hologram to pick up the victory over the Premier Athletes. The finish to this matchup was kind of like the very fast pace. Everybody come in, hit their finishers. You get a crossroads. You get Sammy with a big cutter. You get a wheel kick from Hologram, and then Dustin Rhodes finally finishing things off with the final reckoning on Josh Woods to pick up the win here. This was slightly better than the opener to 0 Hour, so I gave it 2.5 stars. What do you think about the duo, the team of Sammy Guevara and Dustin Rhodes being Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions, Kris?
It's something, you know. I don't necessarily mind it. Because I don't know what either of them are doing on their own, you know. So
that's true.
Yeah.
Josh, what did you think about this one?
Match was okay. Again, nothing too special. I mean, it's always cool to see Hologram and the people, you know, people like him. I like that fact that because that was one thing I was a little worried about. I was like, if he gets away from like whatever we're doing in Collision, I'm like, I want to see how the reaction has been. And seems like he has fans behind him, so it's a good thing.
Yeah, and it seems like Dustin and Sammy are going to be like regulars on the pre-show, it seems, from here on out. Then you had the Bang Bang Gang, Juice Robinson, and the Guns. They picked up a win over the Dark Order in another party match, multi-man matchup. This one was really highlighted by the fact that the Bang Bang Gang were the baby faces in this matchup. Juice getting the hot tag, going wild on all three members of the Dark Order, and then finally picking up the win over Evil Uno with a psych out on the Juice punches and then hitting the Juices loose for the 1-2-3. I do like the Bang Bang Gang as baby faces. I just don't know how that's going to work with Jay White, because Jay White is like a perennial, consummate, should be a heel for the rest of his career type of guy. I know he can be very popular and the fans like him, but I don't know if Juice and the Guns, you know, it seems they're on a good path as baby faces, but Jay White being a baby face, I don't know if I want that. What do you think, Kris?
I need to see it first. I see what you're saying, but I mean, like, I don't think he's been doing anything that great for the last year or so. So I'm always open to new things. I'm always a part of the let it play out crowd when I haven't seen it yet, you know.
That's fair. Josh, what did you think about this 6-man tag?
It was a better matchup than the first two, in my opinion, because that crowd was definitely behind the Bang Bang Gang. And it showed. As far as like when you mentioned about them being faces, I mean, obviously you had the crowd behind them, so that's a good move. When it comes to Jay White, I do agree that he's a better heel, but you can still make him a face as long as he's just not corny. He doesn't pander to the fans. Like, I think if you go the route like where he's just a badass and just not really kissing nobody's ass, but very likable, I think it could work.
I can see that. I could definitely see that. Yeah, I gave the match 3 stars. So yeah, it was the best one out of the first 3 that we saw here. We had the Costco guys being interviewed by Renee Paquette and RJ City. Yeah, that happened. And then you had Tony Schiavone. Tony Schiavone welcomed out Chicago's own Sky Blue, who was injured on AEW Collision back in July. She welcomes her to the stage. She came out on crutches, having broken her ankle. And Blue said that this building holds a lot of sentimental meaning to her, as 3 years ago, Tony Khan offered her a spot in the Casino Battle Royal. Blue said that it's just a waiting game before she can return when asked for an update. This brought out AEW Women's Champion Mariah May to interrupt and said that she's out here for her AEW Women's Championship celebration, but she's not going to do it in Chicago. May asks why it's called the Windy City when no one here has ever been blown before.
What the fuck, man?
Blue said that May knows a thing or two about that. May said that it makes sense that Blue is from Chicago as she's broke, filthy, and lowers her standards to make it enjoyable. Blue says, thanks, Skank, as May says that she needs glamour and look now and never forget. Then Mariah attacks Blue, knocking her crutches out of her hands and then attacking her before she can picks up the crutch and looks like she's about to hit Blue on her injured ankle. That brings out Queen Aminata to make the save. The real life friend of Sky Blue runs off the AEW Women's World Champion and then raises Blue's hand. So it looks like we're getting Queen Aminata as the first kind of feud for Mariah May as AEW Women's World Champion. I have mixed feelings about that. I'm a big Queen Aminata fan and I'm all for that. But I don't think Mariah May is as over as AEW thinks she is, because when you're a new champion and you're still relatively new, you've only been in the company for less than a year, you need more established like babyface characters to go against. Like Thunder Rosa would have been a better person to me as like a first rival, a former champion who's an established babyface, and then that her beating Thunder Rosa would get her over more. When you put her in with Queen Aminata, it's two people that are relatively new to the AEW audience going against one another. It could help both of them at the same time, but it could also not get over at the same time. So I will be on the Kris side of things and say I'll see how it plays out, but I do have my question marks on that. What do you think, Kris, about the angle and Queen Aminata as the potential first feud for Mariah May?
I am in 100% agreement, because I didn't even think they should have taken the belt off of Toni Storm, you know, because I thought Mariah May needed a little bit more seasoning. And I do think they think that Mariah May is more over than she probably is. With that said, I do understand the importance of establishing characters and establishing like I'm trying to think of the word for it, but like figuring out who goes where. So in that sense, I think Mariah May being champ could work. But she's got to be placed in the right feuds, and you can't put her in feuds with people where the audience barely knows who they are. Because Mariah May, let's be honest, if you don't watch AEW, she's not someone that's jumping off the screen to you. You know, it's not someone that you just automatically know. So, I'm let it play out. I'll do that with this one as well.
Josh, what did you think about this angle here?
It was a good angle. I don't mind it too much. If this is like her first feud, I mean, I do get this, you know, like what you said about like you want somebody like more established because of when it comes to the fan perception of things. But like you said, at the same time, it could help both of them if they just go out there and show out. It could definitely help both of them. So, I don't see it to being too much of a big problem. I know there's some people who are saying like, oh, you know, like this feels random, or like they're trying to use a thing of like, oh, is Queen Aminata deserving of it? I mean, at this point, who gives a shit? Like,
yeah, I know deserving. Like,
right? It's like, who gives a shit at this point? Yeah. And her, you know, she's been doing well in Ring of Honor. So I'm like, if nobody's like really watching that, that's on you at that point. So.
Also true. We got Big Man Dogs who says they're kind of booking Mariah like she's the TBS champion and Mercedes like she's the women's champion, which I can see that. I can see it. It does feel like Mercedes is the higher pecking order kind of champion between the two of them. I will say that. And S. Jack says, I think they should have had Toni and her fight one more time, then move on to a top babyface. Toni is the top babyface, S. Jack. Like, that's why I think that it is wise to put in someone else to feud with Mariah May for now, especially if you're going to have Toni stay off of TV for a while, and then her big return can be for probably Mariah May's second or third feud as AEW Women's World Champion. They are going to fight again. It's just too soon to do it right after All In.
Right. And I always thought that the build was going to ultimately be Mariah May versus Mercedes, not Mariah May, Toni Storm versus Mercedes. I thought that was the match they were getting to. So I wonder if that's going to still be in the plan somehow, or if it was ever in the plan,
I think eventually down the road. And there's always exceptions to the rules. Like I said, I wouldn't put someone that isn't established against Mariah May this early into our run, especially as our first feud. But Mina Shirakawa, Alex, that would have been the call. If you're going to put in someone that's relatively new to the AEW audience, you do it against someone that she has plenty of history against, and that it's been established that they do draw when they're on TV together as far as like TV ratings as well. So Mina Shirakawa, I think, would have been the perfect call as the first feud for Mariah May as AEW Women's World Champion. And yeah, there's also Jamie Hayter that can be in the mix too. So there we go. No, Keyshawn, Mina has not been gone. She was in the United States. She just went back to Japan, but she has a new place in the United States. So she can come back at any point, just when Stardom isn't using her, basically.
Yeah, I mean, some people just don't pay attention. That's on them. So.
And then finally, you had the 0 hour main event closing out. It was a 3-way trios matchup of the Undisputed Kingdom's Roderick Strong, Matt Taven, and Mike Bennett facing Shane Taylor Promotions and the Beast Mortos and Action Andretti and Top Flight. It was Undisputed Kingdom who picked up the win. This was another really good party matchup that was really like action-packed. This was the best out of the 0 hour. And it did make sense with Undisputed Kingdom picking up the victory here after Roderick Strong stole the victory from the Beast Mortos, picking up the win. And then he called out Hook afterwards and said that he's next. This one I did enjoy. I gave it 3.25 stars. What did you think, Josh?
Yeah, I do agree. I think it was probably the best matchup in the 0 hour. I had Top Flight winning because I was like, oh, maybe they need something. At least they weren't wearing those god awful gear. But yeah, the match overall was solid.
And Keyshawn, she was on TV. She was in the crowd at All In. That's what I'm saying. Like she's been with AEW for a while. Like she's been on TV. She was just on TV at the last pay-per-view, actually.
She did a segment. She did a backstage segment not so long ago on TV. So I mean, again, if you're not paying attention, that's on you.
If you're not watching, that's fine. That's fine if you're not watching. That's cool.
It comes off like, when people complain about like, oh, why is this happening? Why is that happening? I'm like, if you pay attention, you'll see why it's happening and you'll see what's going on. She's been on TV several times, even after Forbidden Door. So I mean, she's been present.
Kris, what do you think about Roderick Strong now seeming like he's getting into a feud with Hook over the FTW Championship? I don't necessarily think that's the right move, but yeah. I mean, it's going to help Hook to face someone like Roderick Strong at least.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's the FTW title. So, I mean, and Roderick Strong, he's been there kind of spinning his wheels. He's in when he was in NXT, he was definitely moving down the pecking order under Vince. So I mean, it's something, man. I'm like, it's something, It's like that's what the best I can say about it,
And I agree with Big Man Dogs. He says, I really like the Undisputed Kingdom as wrestlers, just not their presentation. 100% agree with you there.
I agree.
Nobody.
And
I
then,
was reading one of the comments.
It's okay. Then the main card kicked off with MJF going one-on-one with Daniel Garcia. This one was a grudge matchup MJF coming out first to kick off the show. He has a thank me later flag instead of the United States flag with all of his faces, but he doesn't even get to complete his entrance before Daniel Garcia pops up on him, attacking him from behind. The referee gets in between them and the bell finally sounds. Garcia has a big bandage over his head after being busted open on Dynamite. He tries to go for a power driver early on, but MJF launches him hard into the corner. MJF really zones in on the previous injury for Garcia of the neck. The crowd is doing dual chants of he's our scumbag and no he's not, as MJF hits a stun gun and raked at the eyes. MJF spiked Garcia with a wrist clutch DDT, but he went for a suplex and Garcia held on and both men fell to the floor, with MJF snapping real hard over that top rope as well. Garcia just barely breaks the count. Finally, they start slugging a slugfest between one another. A series of twisting shouts by Garcia gives him control. He tried for a leapfrog, but MJF caught him midair with a powerbomb backbreaker, dropping Garcia right on his head. MJF ripped off the bandage and bit Garcia's head, and he busted him open yet again here, and then started doing the whole bit that he did last time they were in Chicago at Beach Break, shaking his head like a rag doll. He tries for an avalanche tombstone power driver off the second rope, but this time Garcia is able to clap his boots against MJF's head, and he hits an avalanche implant DDT for a 2 count. Garcia tried for a power driver, but his neck gave out as MJF hit a mule kick and a Panama Sunrise, but Garcia was able to kick out. Garcia slowly started hulking up, so MJF spat in his face, which only pissed off Garcia. So MJF got an eye poke. MJF went for his vertical drop brainbuster, but Garcia was able to reverse that into a small package. We got a series of near falls between both men. MJF fired off with a hard right hand into a double down. We get a snap German suplex from MJF, but Garcia no-sold it, rolling through into one of his own. He threw his whole body behind a lariat for another reset as both men were down. MJF countered a power driver into a Walls of Jericho, but Garcia countered that into the label lock, kind of a foreshadowing or a callback to Garcia's inner conflict of being sports entertainer versus a wrestler during the Danielson-Jericho feud. MJF then countered into a crossface, but again, Garcia was able to get out of that, and he reversed things into the Dragon Tamer. The neck hampered him, though, as MJF pulled back on it and reversed into the Salt of the Earth armbar. He transitioned the Salt of the Earth armbar into a butterfly armbar, and then even got the legs like he was Maxwell Sabre Jr. Garcia went to grab the ropes, but MJF snapped back on his arm even further. He got one of the free legs and put it into a half crab, but Garcia was finally able to get to the ropes with the other leg. MJF wanted another Panama Sunrise, but Garcia collapsed. It was all a ruse as Garcia caught him with a jackknife pin for a near fall. We get overhand strikes, leaving sweat bursting off of MJF. Then he locks on a guillotine onto MJF, and MJF almost goes limp. The referee tries to count him out, but Garcia catches his arm and then hits a jumping power driver for a close near fall. Garcia was about to go for another power driver, but instead he goes to the ropes. He tries for the avalanche power driver, but MJF bites at the bloody head. MJF pulled referee Bryce Rensburg in front of him and then hit a low blow behind his back, rolls up Garcia for the 1-2-3. MJF stealing the victory here in what I thought was a great opener to the show. It felt like a very personal grudge match that you could feel the hatred between both men. And then the post-match was really well done as well, as MJF feigns wanting to respect Garcia here, asking for a handshake in the post-match. They raise each other's hand just like they did at Beach Break, but when MJF goes for the low blow again, Garcia catches his leg, hits a low blow of his own. He drags MJF over to the corner. He spits in his face, and then he finally hits the avalanche power driver, coming through on his promise that he made to his family that he would drop MJF on his neck in the same way MJF did to him back in Chicago at Beach Break, to a loud ovation from the fans. Garcia then crawls over to MJF. He picks his body up and starts ragdolling him in the same way that MJF did, and then gives him a kiss on the forehead, finally getting a measure of revenge against Maxwell Jacob Freeman. And we get doctors coming in to check on MJF as Garcia goes through the crowd and celebrates with the fans. Like I said, I thought this was an excellent opening matchup, an excellent grudge match overall, and a great way to kick off the show. I gave it 4.25 stars. Kris, what did you think about MJF and Garcia here and the result? Because I know a lot of people were upset that Garcia did not get the win here.
Right, yeah, and I saw the online sentiment on Twitter before I saw the match, so I did go back and watch the match myself, and I thought for the story they told made sense for MJF to win because Garcia was driven by anger and he wasn't thinking strategically, right? So it would make sense for him to kind of lose himself in the match and not win, but he did end up getting revenge after the match. So they can always have another match. Garcia's gonna have to win eventually. I think it was an opening card match. They got time to what else are both of those guys doing, you know? So I didn't necessarily mind it. I give it about 4 stars myself.
What did you think about the opening match to the pay-per-view, Josh?
It's a great opening match. I was kind of glad these guys had time because that's one of the things I was looking to see. Like, wonder how much time they're gonna give. More so Daniel Garcia than MJF because usually MJF does get like usually about like a good like 10-15 minutes in his matches. So they went a good amount of time. They did a whole lot too. I was like, damn. I didn't expect a lot in the match.
It felt like they started at like third gear and then it lasted for 20 minutes. Right. Like what's usually like the last 5 minutes of a matchup, they just went at it and it just felt physically intense like the whole time.
Yeah, and then also I did like the closing, like the angle after the fact where MJF tried to shake his hand. He was trying to dupe him, and then Dan Garcia saw that shit a mile away. He saw that.
I do think they need to kind of modify the way MJF does that sometimes and I was glad that they didn't have Garcia fall for that shit, because that is kind of like, like after this, it's like, okay, you got to do something different before you turn on these cats, something else. They're
probably just keeping it the same because of like, he did it the very first time he did it was what's on Cody.
Yeah,
so I guess they're just keeping like the same kind of thing.
He thinks it's gonna. He thinks
it's gonna work.
And this time, unlike what I thought with the Dynamite angle, where I thought they made Garcia look like an idiot because he went up to MJF for a fight and then just got blasted in the head with the wine bottle. They made him look like a smart babyface that learned his lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that. I like the fact that and the pile driver off the top rope. Oh my god. Yeah. the way they did that, I think both guys delivered. I was happy to see that. I know
it felt like both guys gained something from this match.
Yeah, and I know like in the rapid fire predictions, I did pick Garcia, but then I also did say I was like, I do see MJF winning. I'm just picking Garcia because I'm like, they could do something more for him. This would mean more for him at the moment. But in the storyline, like if this is going to continue and they do some kind of like multiple matches between them, then it makes sense. MJF winning the first time.
Yeah, it's one of those hedge your bet picks. It's like I want Garcia, so I'm gonna say he's gonna win, but come on, yeah.
Like that's exactly what it was. MJF loses 2 pay-per-views in a row, especially in succession, like 2 weeks in a row, basically. But yeah, I agree with Big Man Dogs here. He says MJF is really good at structuring his matches. He's really perfecting the art of the pay-per-view opener. Like, he's been put in this position a lot, whether it be on Dynamite or whether it be on pay-per-view, and he is really becoming like their go-to guy to open these pay-per-views. So good stuff there. We got Manuel who says maybe they run it back at Grand Slam. I don't know about that because it was Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio who reported that this post-match was to write off MJF for a little while. I don't know how long MJF is going to be off, but they said that this is kind of their way to write him off. Maybe they write him off for just a couple of weeks and then he returns at Grand Slam, but I don't see the rematch between MJF and Garcia happening there. But next up, you had the AEW World Tag Team Championships up for grabs. The Young Bucks, Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, defending against Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta of the Blackpool Combat Club. It was started off with Nicholas and Yuta in the ring. It was Nicholas who showed off his athleticism early, hitting a double arm drag on both members of the BCC. The posing allowed Yuta and Castagnoli to start working over both members of the Young Bucks, hitting wishbone legs over and over and over again to both of them, who were furious outside. Nicholas runs outside and kicks the barricade and hurts his foot. I was like, oh, these guys are it's hilarious how often that happens to Nicholas. Matthew finally dodged a corner attack, allowing the Young Bucks to hit some of their signature offense, slingshot, high kick, and a double stomp combo. They get a somersault neckbreaker, backbreaker combo, followed up as Yuta stayed isolated with a slingshot leg drop by Nicholas, who spat at Castagnoli, who ran after him to distract the referee. Yuta dodged a charging Matthew, who ran into his brother, allowing Castagnoli to make the hot tag. He comes in, hitting European uppercuts all over the place. He hits the uppercut parade on the outside, comes in, hits a crossbody for a near fall. Blind tag from Yuta as Castagnoli tried a springboard, but he had his legs super kicked out from under him. Castagnoli turned the tide though and hung Matthew up in the ropes as Yuta gorilla pressed Nicholas onto him. Matthew kicked out of a seatbelt pin combination by Yuta. Nicholas was in with a super kick to Yuta. Yuta did the low bounce back high kick, applied the cattle mutilation, but was left open for a Nicholas hitting a senton. Castagnoli was hit with the Hurricane Rana off the apron by Nicholas, leaving everyone down. Nicholas pulled the legs out from under Yuta and hit a slingshot facebuster. We get more bang for your buck cut off by the BCC. Castagnoli made the tag and hit a springboard spinning uppercut on Matthew. The Bucks avoided the giant swing and hit Castagnoli with the EVP trigger, only for Yuta to break up the count. The Bucks pumped up their kicks and started super kick party. They tried for another EVP trigger, but Castagnoli blocked both of them and did a double suplex. Yuta hit a dive on Nicholas as Castagnoli hit the near 20 revolution giant swing on Matthew. They went for the fastball special, but Nicholas flew in with a series of super kicks. Matthew got his knees up when Yuta finally went for the big fastball special splash, and he rolls up Yuta for the 1-2-3 to pick up the victory here. I thought this was the Young Bucks' probably best match in like a few months, probably since their ladder match, like standard 2-on-2 tag team match. This was their best work since the ladder match against FTR at Dynasty. I really enjoyed this. I'm probably the high man here. I thought it was 4 stars. Just a great paint by the numbers for the Young Bucks, but the Young Bucks felt more in their zone. And over the last 2 weeks between the 3-way at All In and this matchup at All Out, it seems that the Young Bucks are coming back to their old ways. Matthew is beaten down to heck, old bones, and he's got a lot of mileage on his body, but he's been putting in the effort. But Nicholas is the one that really has been showing that he still has that goat Nicholas Jackson of the Young Bucks era in him here. But Castagnoli is just like, he might be the best single individual tag team wrestler I've seen in my lifetime. Claudio just made to do tag team wrestling. But Josh, what did you think about Young Bucks versus BCC?
It was a fun matchup. I know, like in the rapid fire predictions, we were talking about like how this could still be a good match. And you know, they call it, you're like that it needs to be in the first half of the show and second match of the card. So
yep.
Overall, I
Great
mean,
spot.
good match. Yeah, good match and a good spot on the card. So that's all you can really ask for.
Kris, what did you think?
Yeah, I think so too. I don't know if I'll go quite 4 stars, but it was a good match. It's nothing really to complain about. It's probably the Young Bucks' best match since it's in a while. I think Claudio and Wheeler, I always like those kind of teams, even though it does seem kind of makeshifty. They are in the same faction. I think they posed. I didn't think they were beating the Bucks, but at least they're a credible team to go against the Bucks. So I got no complaints.
We got Dolores in the chat. Good to see you, Dolores. We got 4 stars from Kris. Big Man Dog says 3.5. Much better than the all-in matchup to him. Yeah, slightly better than the all-in 3-way matchup, mainly because the build up to this one was less ineffective than that 3-way at all.
Right. Yeah.
All right. It's time to talk about one of the matches everybody was looking forward to on this show. Will Ospreay defending the AEW International Championship against the Bastard PAC. At the opening bell of this one, man, this crowd went on their feet and was absolutely electric. And they kept that atmosphere for the whole entire bout here. As the fans were on their feet, Will Ospreay is getting hyped. The Bastard PAC says, I'm going to take a powder. He goes out of the ring to get him to calm down. I thought Excalibur did a good job on commentary here, and it's very rare I say that. But he name dropped Jody Fleisch, who is one of like the pioneers of high flying wrestling from the UK, and talking about how he and PAC walked in British wrestling so guys like Ospreay could run. PAC tried a snap Hurricane Rana early on, but Ospreay cartwheeled to his feet, went to the outside, and PAC hits a the sky twister off the top rope back inside. They repeat the same sequence with PAC going to the outside, and then Ospreay does a sky twister press off the top rope. I was like, this is probably these are 2 of 3 people in this company that can do that type of sequence just back and forth. The other third was watching the matchup and ricocheted here. Back inside, both men started trading slaps while they were on the mat, rising to their feet, where PAC took a charge. PAC repeatedly slammed Ospreay violently into the barricade on the outside before bringing Ospreay back inside. He hits a big vertical drop, avalanche brainbuster off the top rope. Ospreay pointed to his neck to the referee Aubrey, but PAC didn't care and made the cover for a 2 count. PAC dodged a flying forearm, rolling to the outside, where he sprung off where Ospreay then springs off of the barricade, hits the pip chariot off the barricade, which looked great. Then he goes inside and he does a Sasuke special to the outside that was perfectly done. Ospreay hits a handspring corkscrew kick. Nigel McGuinness said that he felt like a sack of spuds as both men went to the corner where Ospreay wanted cheeky Nando's, but PAC kicked out of it and hits a wild moonsault into a spinning DDT that spiked Ospreay right on his bad neck. This leads to PAC following up with a Liger bomb. PAC charged but was hit with a running Spanish fly that put Ospreay back in control. PAC dodged an Os cutter, but Ospreay flattened him out with a tombstone. PAC avoided the hidden blade, but Ospreay managed an Os cutter on the second try and got a 2 count and a fight forever chance at this point. Both men rails to their feet where Ospreay welcomed the forearms, but for stagger on the apron. Ospreay wanted the Os cutter off the apron, but PAC folded him up with a brutal German suplex. Relentlessly, PAC then follows up with a even crazier, sickening Poison Rana on the bad neck on the apron. He brings it back into the ring and sinks in the brutalizer, but Ospreay was able to get his foot on the rope. Nigel McGuinness called the spot where basically PAC hits a big running boot into the corner and Ospreay gets in position for the Black Arrow, but it was just to goad him in to get the knees up. We get a wall walk insecurity from Ospreay, answered by a bounce back German suplex. We get Ospreay snapping through with a hurricane. We get PAC snapping through on the on a Liger bomb attempt by Ospreay into a Hurricane Rana pin for a 2 count. At this point, the crowd is just going crazy on their feet. We get another Poison Rana despite Ospreay. PAC once more went for the brutalizer, but Ospreay was able to power out to his feet. PAC tried for a third Poison Rana, but Ospreay was able to avoid it and hit one of his own into a sickening hidden blade, and he only gets a 2 count. PAC crotched Ospreay, who wanted a corner Os cutter as he looked for an avalanche Poison Rana. Ospreay lands on his feet, hits a second hidden blade, turning PAC inside out. But again, PAC is able to kick out. We get a springboard super Os cutter. Then he tries to pick him up for the Stormbreaker, but PAC reverses that into a snap Hurricane Rana. He gets a 2 count where Ospreay rolls through the 2 count and hits a stop splash out of it, and then follows up with a third hidden blade to the back of the head for the 1, 2, 3. I mean, 5 stars. Like, I don't know what else to give this. This was like the perfect match. If you told me what's a perfect Ospreay and PAC matchup, just watch this match, because this was just flawless, insane sequences. This was unbelievable action from the moment go. This was just sensational in every way possible. And Will Ospreay's pay-per-view catalog of 2024 is virtually unreal. I don't think we've ever seen a guy put on this many match of the year candidates, pay-per-view after pay-per-view after pay-per-view, between the match with Takeshita at Revolution, the match with Bryan at Dynasty, him and Swerve at Forbidden Door, him and MJF, both the hour-long matchup on Dynamite and 2 weeks ago at All In, and then this match here, like, I might even go 5+ stars, because this was just unreal. On any other year, this would be no question match of the year. It is just a match of the year candidate because Will Ospreay has like 7 of these matches this year. It's unbelievable. This is Flair in 89, Kenny Omega in 2017-18 levels of greatness. I don't think we've ever seen someone put together a year like Will Ospreay has in 2024. And I feel like I literally said that in 2023 for Will Ospreay. But here we are, 2024, and I got to say it again. Kris, what did you think about Will Ospreay versus PAC?
Oh yeah, this was a great match, man. I had to speed watch it this morning, but I did see the most important parts of it. It was a phenomenal match. Ospreay is going to be Ospreay, Swerve, and maybe a couple other guys. They're going to be huge stars for AEW, and I think that Ospreay 100% made the right decision signing with AEW, because I think they could utilize him to his strengths the most. And by the time he wins the world title, either next year or the year after, whenever they give him the world title, it's going to be a huge, huge deal. Right now he keeps putting out bangers. PAC served his purpose as well. I don't want to take anything away from him. He was very good in the match, but this was the
best PAC match I've ever seen.
Yeah, and he seemed motivated. You know, this is a match that it is worth going out of your way to see. But yeah, I definitely loved the match. It was perfect.
What did you think, Josh, of PAC versus Ospreay?
Like we were saying earlier, I felt like this was like a different kind of match for Ospreay himself, right? It's like we're so used to like seeing him being a certain way, a certain style. I felt like when it came to this match, you know, there was more like a grittiness in this match because of PAC, because of his style. So we saw something a little bit different. He was still doing what he does, but we were seeing something a little bit different because of his opponent. And I think that's something important when it comes to Will Ospreay, because remember, for years, the criticism of Will Ospreay was like, oh, he doesn't know how to do this. He doesn't know how to do that. But yeah, we've been seeing the last couple of years that no, like this dude knows not only he knows what he's doing, but he's very good when it comes to knowing the other person's style of wrestling now. I think we're starting to really see that from Will. And that's why he's becoming, like you said, one of the best in the world. Even though I thought for a long time, I already thought he already was. But I think now he's just not only proving that, but he's elevating himself. Like he's been doing that for a long time without doing a lot of the crazy shit he used to do.
Yeah, he's really kind of slowed it down. He knows when to pick up the pace at the right time. And yeah, the pacing was just flawless in this matchup. And everything they did, it worked, and it worked to perfection. And PAC may be like one of the most underrated professional wrestlers of like the past 20 years. Like he's so important. That's why I said I noted what Excalibur said on commentary. Like if it wasn't for PAC, we wouldn't see Will Ospreay at this level of where he was. Like PAC laid down the groundwork for Will to become so successful. So that is why Will was so motivated in this matchup, because they only had one opportunity before this to have a one-on-one matchup, and politics got in the way. That was only a 30-minute time limit draw, and they waited 5 years for this moment, and they delivered in every way possible. This is one of the best AEW matches of the year. We got Christopher Kidd, who says, I can't wait to see Billy Goat bleed and win the world title. I think he may wait a while. I don't know how long this international title run is going to be, but like he may want to wait a while, but I don't know how long AEW can wait on Will Ospreay not being the AEW world champion, because he's just so otherworldly good. And like matches like this are just state of the art. Like you're not going to see anything like this match anywhere else but AEW right now.
Yep, and you also started to see like even like the outside stuff. You're starting to see how important they're treating him, because like when we were talking about like his merch yesterday, like they're starting to do stuff with his merch that's like almost never been done, right? Like I mentioned yesterday, you know, they had the all-in special edition, which sold out within like under an hour, and then you know the Blackpool Brawlers, they had like the first exclusive arena exclusive micro brawlers, like so. They're really seeing how important he is, and you know, he's not only over with the crowd, but you know, like he's bringing them money.
Right? Yeah. I don't think you need to rush to put the belt on him, especially if he's doing well with the international title and building up the stock of that title. You know, Ospreay is not going anywhere. He's gonna be one of the most important guys on that roster. So next year, the year after, whenever, he'll be fine.
Right there. We did get later on in the show Will Ospreay being interviewed by Renee Paquette, and he says that PAC will go down as one of the best high flyers of all time, and said anytime he wants a replay, he can have it. Ospreay says that he hopes that Ricochet was watching, and said he's sick of him collecting a paycheck and he wants him to start racking up some wins. I was like, this dude just got here. Ricochet pulls up on him, marches in, and says, why you talking shit? Why you talking shit for? I'm trying to enjoy myself. Ospreay said for him to go to Tony Khan's office and get some wins under his belt so he can come for his title. And Ricochet says, bet, I'm going to come. I'm coming for you. I'm coming for that title. I love the fact that this just felt like two friends talking shit to one another. Like, dude just got here. He just got the job, and you like some more t-shirts than me. Like they working at like a retail store.
Right, yeah. And this is and I've been going back and forth with people on Twitter when I've had time who've been talking shit about Ricochet signing with AEW. And I'll say this. In WWE, Ricochet was in the friend zone. They saw this guy as not a superstar. He was a guy that they could use to elevate someone like a Braun Breaker. They were using him as a good hand. in AEW, maybe they'll use him the same way, but he at least has a fighting chance. He's going into AEW with he's a new guy. He's a fresh face. He's just starting a relationship, and it hasn't gotten stale. And him and Ospreay have always been magic. So this is where he belongs, man. And they weren't gonna do shit with him in WWE.
Oh, believe me. And it's also way better than the idea that Bully Ray had for Ricochet.
Yeah.
Because like Bully Ray was like all that he needs to resign. Like, you know how he is. He doesn't want to
I know, yeah.
So, but his idea was that because Braun Breaker took him out, his idea was that he wanted Braun took him out. And then he basically wanted Braun to basically harass Samantha. Yeah. Which I'm just like, bro,
because he's still in
I don't think you want to be doing this in 2024. I don't think you want to be doing like some shit like this in 2024, right? But then his idea was like, oh, and then Ricochet could come back after weeks, comes back. And then, like he stands up for Samantha. And then, you take out all his wrestling, you take out all the high flying stuff. And it's just like a brawl. Like you have like kind of a brawl kind of thing. I'm like, bro, isn't this the same shit that you booked for like Flip Gordon? And how did that shit go in Ring of Honor? Are you fucking kidding me right now?
He's the best booker. Bully Ray. He's the best booker.
Right. Yeah.
But then, you're talking about taking out like Ricochet's like his go-to, his formula is his wrestling. You're talking about taking that out. All right, Bully. Yeah, this is why you haven't gotten a booking job since.
Yeah.
We do have a super chat donation from our good friend Aubrey James. Thank you so much, Aubrey, for the love and support. He says Hangman needs to be the one that retires Danny O'Brien. Don't call him by his slave name. You mean Bryan Danielson? He says Swerve can take the at All In. I agree with that booking. It would be another element of the Hangman and Swerve rivalry if Hangman can go win the world championship, be the one to send Bryan off of his full-time run, and then he could say, I did what you couldn't do at All In, and then 1 year later at All In Texas next year, it's Swerve versus Hangman, because that's the only place that they can go after. They can't keep doing these death matches after last night.
That's a long commitment too.
Like a straight up world championship matchup. That's the one thing that they haven't done yet.
Yeah, and that's a long commitment too. Like you're talking about putting the title on Page, which I thought was going to eventually happen. Like I had him winning the Owen Hart Cup, and just didn't happen. Because I thought that was going to be a match at All In. But I think I like the fact that it ended up being All Out, ended up being the cage match. But I do agree with because you could do this as a singles match for the title. Like it doesn't need no stipulation at that point, for me at least. Like if you're doing like just a regular match with no titles, nothing on the line, and you just have a singles match, then it's like, bro, like you guys just did a Texas Death match in the unsanctioned cage match. This is like Orton and Edge all over again. Like let's have a singles match and let's see who's the best in the world.
After they walk through the performance center for like a year. Big Man Dogs with a comment. Thank you once again, Aubrey. We appreciate the support. Anyone else, you can just hit the $sign and show some love to what we do here. We appreciate y'all joining us live today for this All Out 2024 review. I'll get to some more comments in a bit here, but man, I said it a lot when we did our All In London review that it felt like the only thing off on that show, and we were high on that show. I think me and Jimmy both gave it a 9 out of 10 for All In London 2 weeks ago. We said the only thing that we would have corrected really is placement of matches, and the fact that like a match like Mercedes Moné versus Britt Baker followed that kind of like the Casino Gauntlet, which was that great live experience. And then MJF and Ospreay had a tremendous match. And then they had to follow that. So when I saw the graphic come up for Kris Statlander and Willow Nightingale's Chicago street fight, following what we just saw, a match of the year candidate, 5 stars in my book between PAC and Will Ospreay, I'm like, he did it again? Like, stop having the women follow Will Ospreay. Boy, oh boy, was I proven wrong here, though. Jesus Christ, Willow Nightingale, Kris Statlander went out and had a slapper. The bell sounds, and Stokely Hathaway immediately threw in a chair that said New Jack RIP on it. Nightingale ducked a shot and gave Statlander a buckle bomb. That was followed by a corner cannonball for a 2. And you can just tell off the corner cannonball, like Willow Nightingale was going full speed ahead on this matchup. Both fought on the apron where Statlander wanted a German suplex to the floor. Instead, cracked Nightingale in the back with a chair and power bombed her through the Spanish announce table. It was just exploded, that table, after Willow landed on it. Hathaway and Statlander set up another table, placing Nightingale on it before Statlander took time to expose the metal part of the turnbuckle so she can get better footing. That delay, though, allowed Nightingale to move out the way. And oh my God, the bump on this tape. I was like, God damn, she's trying to break her back. She does a senton and just crashes through that table, still kicking Willow Nightingale with the impact coming down, kicking her in the head. Nightingale follows up. She hits a huge pounce through the barricade on Statlander, then hits a discus lariat on the stage. As they went up the ramp, Nightingale scolded Statlander, slapping her in the face before Statlander hit a snap suplex, screaming at Stokely to get the stuff. Hathaway showed up with a trash can full of weapons, allowing Statlander to have a field day. She gets a barbed wire baseball bat, but Willow ducks and waffles her with a fucking light tube double bat over her head. And this is when I was like, oh shit, okay, I was wrong. I messaged the True Hill Heat and I was like, oh no, I was wrong. This is the best match to follow Will Ospreay back. This busts open Statlander at that point. Willow stalks Stokely down to the tunnel and gets rid of him. Both ladies start sucking it out until Statlander does a full run at Willow and spears her off the ramp into tables, and they crash through the tables. Both ladies brawled to the ring where they started no-selling moves until they collided in the middle of the ring. They lead to a double down where they're both hugging each other. Nightingale then goes to the outside as well as Statlander. Nightingale grabs a chain while Statlander grabs a bag of tacks. Statlander slaps Willow, resulting in Nightingale biting the head and punching her with the chain, further busting her open. Statlander manages a snap German suplex and grabs the bag and dumps out some thumbtacks. Statlander wanted a scissor kick on the thumbtacks, but Willow moves and does the splits in the thumbtack. I was like, thumbtacks to the pussy? What are we doing? What are we doing?
Oh, man.
Oh my God. Nightingale follows with a running DVD onto the thumbtacks for a 2 count. She goes up to the top rope and wants a big move off the top rope, but Statlander cuts her off and hits a massive Spanish fly. Like, yo, they were on their shit in this matchup. She grabs a chain from the outside. She basically ties, it's like a dog collar chain. She grabs the other chain and does a discus clothesline and gets a 2 count. She gets a dog collar chain and ties both of her and Willow to each other by the wrist. This becomes an impromptu chain matchup. As both women are just slugging at each other. Both women collapse into each other's arms, basically hugging each other until they look at each other and just start going ham on each other again. Statlander spikes Willow with the Saturday Night Fever Tombstone Power Driver before wrapping the chain around her mouth and neck, pulling back until Willow has no choice but to give up. Oh my God. Like, I did not think AEW would ever have, and like I said on our final predictions on True Hill Heat on Saturday, the women of AEW always show out in street fight. But I didn't think we would ever see a more violent women's matchup than Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker. But this matchup, with the crowd being so into it, after they could have legitimately been tired after, like, you know, you had Garcia and MJF, a very emotional grudge match. You had the Young Bucks and BCC was kind of like a build-up traditional tag team matchup. Great matchup there. And then a match of the year candidate blowaway where any other matchup on this card, I think would have waffled in the shadow of PAC and Ospreay. These two women showed the fuck out and had one of my favorite women's matches of the year, 4 3/4 stars. I love this matchup. Kris, what did you think about Willow and Stat?
Yeah, I did too, man. And I think I said this on the last show. AEW's women's division is really it right now, man. I don't think anywhere, and this I'm including WWE. I think AEW's women's division is better at the moment. And this match is one of the reasons why. It's like, and it's not a knock on WWE. I just think they've kind of finally come to a place with the women where it doesn't feel like you're just trying to shoehorn them in. They're doing storylines that are meaningful. That thumbtack spot was absolutely, that was the last thing I expected to see this morning, you know, my God, man. But it was great, and it was done in a way that made sense to the story if you've been following Kris and Willow for the last couple months. So this kind of grudge match made sense. So I loved it. I thought it was great.
Josh, what do you think about the Chicago street fight?
The match over delivered for sure. That's the best way to say it. It's a compliment. You know, it's a compliment because again, they were put in a tough spot following that Will PAC match. I mean, they were put in a tough spot. So, you know, I don't want to say we weren't expecting much, but I think it needed to be this kind of violent match for it to be what it was. Because I think if it would have been like a regular match, I think both ladies would have done fine, but that spark definitely would have been missing.
Yeah, this was like full throttle. Like the way they were just moving in this matchup, like so there might like probably the only nitpick that I will kind of accept. You could say, oh, they were no selling at certain points, but they needed to just keep up the pace, like keep the foot on the pedal with after what PAC and Ospreay did. And boy, oh boy, did they did that. This to me was the best women's match of the year for AEW. And I love Timeless Toni Storm versus Mariah May. I loved Mercedes Moné versus Willow Nightingale at Double or Nothing. But this was the best women's match of the year for AEW.
Yeah, and I think with no selling, it makes sense in certain situations. Like if you're in a grudge match situation, if it's like a fight, you're gonna be no selling in the beginning of the fight. It takes a little while before you just start feeling stuff, you know. After that adrenaline rush wears off. So no selling is fine for me in this kind of match.
Yeah. Deion Jenkins, we got him saying this was my match of the night. We got Blue who says match of the year. We got Safet giving it 4 3/4 stars too. Like I said, I gave it 4 3/4 stars. Like if it was anywhere else on the card, or you probably give it like 5 more minutes, it probably would have been 5 stars because this was just. And if it wasn't on the show that had an unsanctioned steel cage matchup, it probably would have been 5 stars. We got Big Red Dogs. He says I expected it to be boring, to be honest. Not gonna lie. He says I can't believe this in the tag team match was just as long. Yeah, it did not feel like it was as long as the tag team matchup. It just flew by. It just flew by right there. Kris agrees with Professor Kris. He says AEW's women's division is better than WWE's women's division. I think the talent is like, if you just graded it on talent, I think they're even, and you could probably give the edge to WWE on talent. But the way they've been booked this year, I think that's the difference. Why I would give AEW's women's division the
better
nod
pace.
That's what I'm basing it off of too, is the way they're being booked as well.
Yeah. We got Power Driver Finisher. He says 5 out of 5 because they impressed me after Ospreay and PAC match. Alex says AEW knows how to do a women's stip match. Yeah, They just kill it every time, and it's always very, very memorable. You gotta love it. And I Make Beats says Spanish announce table spot always pops spot 4.5. So everyone's really high on Willow and Statlander from this show. But moving on to our next matchup for the AEW Continental Championship, it was Kazuchika Okada defending in a 4-way against ROH World Champion Mark Briscoe, Orange Cassidy, and Konosuke Takeshita with Don Callis in his corner. Don Callis joining the commentary team. At this point, Taz replaced Nigel McGuinness on commentary as well. You get it. First started off as mostly like a 2-on-2 matchup with the members of the conglomeration going after Okada and Takeshita. They eventually are dispatched of, and the crowd just went crazy whenever Okada and Takeshita were in the ring alone together. Like, they got amped up at their first stare down with one another. Orange Cassidy comes in and does a few spots. He tries to put his hands in his pocket, but they stop him. He eventually hits a double Hurricane Rana to both men. He hits a low tope to Takeshita as Okada ate a DDT back inside. Redneck Kung Fu from Briscoe to Okada as he flew in with a flying forearm before having a forearm and chop battle with Takeshita. Standing switches led to Briscoe hitting an insecurity as the conglomeration members sent Okada and Takeshita to the floor. They hit double dives and cactus elbows, with Cassidy giving a lazy cactus elbow. We get F Don Callis chants at this point. We got, they say, Excalibur says, "Oh, the fans don't really like you here. They really like you, huh?" And Taz says, "It's because he's grieving. That's enough for a chant." Everyone took turns delivering vertical suplexes, which kind of died down the crowd a little bit until the final couple of suplexes. Cassidy broke the streak with a stun dog millionaire on Takeshita before getting in another suplex. Okada drop kicked Cassidy out of the ring, out of the corner to the floor. Briscoe met Okada with some redneck kung fu again, but Takeshita cut his dive attempt off with one of his own onto Okada and Cassidy. Takeshita took too long posing, which allowed Briscoe to launch off a chair with a big dive. At this point, I don't even know. This is the same thing I said during the Collision matchup with Lance Archer. I don't know how Mark Briscoe started bleeding, but he started bleeding from the same exact eye that he did on Collision. He and Cassidy start lighting each other up with some hard chops. It led to them doing lazy chops and then a high five, and then a high five, and then they started throwing haymakers on one another. Okada and Takeshita both hit release German suplexes to both men and then stared down with each other once again to a loud pop from the fans. This led to a forearm exchange between both men. Okada hit his drop kick. He went for the Rainmaker, and Takeshita reversed it into a Blue Thunder Bomb, which was the best spot of this matchup. Takeshita placed Cassidy in the corner and hit a massive superplex, but Briscoe followed up with a froggy bow for a 2. Okada went to the top rope and hit an elbow drop. He was about to do the Rainmaker pose, but instead does the middle finger pose. Briscoe tries for a J Driller, but opts for a lariat instead. Takeshita charges, hits a big boot to Okada, but then Cassidy hits him with the orange punch. Takeshita counters the Stun Dog Millionaire into an overhead German suplex. Briscoe avoids the power driver knee and hits a brutal J Driller, which looked like he folded Takeshita on his head. He tries to go for the froggy bow, but Takeshita gets his knees up. He hits the power drive knee, but Cassidy breaks up the cover. We get a beach break connect on Takeshita. Cassidy wants the orange punch, but Takeshita catches him with a wild knee and then hits a wild lariat. He then goes for the Raging Fire, but Okada breaks it up. He throws Takeshita to the outside. He tries to go for the Rainmaker on Briscoe, but Cassidy runs in and gets a roll-up for a 2. But then Okada reverses an orange punch into the Rainmaker for the 1-2-3. Very fun matchup here. A lot of action, but this is like the 4-way to really tease what's going to be the main feud for Okada's Continental Championship, being him and Konosuke Takeshita, and Takeshita eventually being the one that dethrones Okada. I am here for this. A lot of fun, and they had another bad spot here after having to follow Ospreay and PAC and then that street fight, but I think they delivered as well. 4 stars. Kris, what did you think about Okada retaining in this 4-way?
Yeah, 4 stars, and I think Okada. Yeah, that's what I expected, and that's what happened. It was a great match, and it was in a very tough spot as well. So it's cool.
Josh, what did you think here?
It was a great matchup. Yep, they got something here, right? You saw how the crowd reacted to every time Okada and Kakeshina had a stare down. That's something that they got on the table now. That's a big money matchup, and that's the direction they should go. Now it's gonna be a matter of how they do it, because they're both our heels, and that's gonna be the most interesting part. Like, we want it to happen. It's just a matter of how it's gonna happen.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's in either on pay-per-view for sure, but probably I would love it if it was like the Continental Classic Finals. Like, y'all could do like a one match where like Takeshita comes close, but he comes up short against Okada at like a Wrestle Dream or Full Gear. But in the finals of the Continental Classic, I think Takeshita should be the one that wins this year's C2. We got a bunch of folks who says they're going with 4 stars. Pigman Dog says 3.5. We got Power Driver Finisher says, and I knew it was coming by the setup. Rainmaker counter into the Blue Thunder Bomb by Takeshita. Yeah, that was a great spot. My favorite spot of that whole entire matchup. We also got Alex Powell who says, he says Takeshita versus Okada at World's End. He says, I can't wait for the Continental Classic. They got so many guys that I want to see in the Continental Classic between Takeshita, Kyle Fletcher. Of course, Okada's going to be in it, but they have a plethora of talent that would do well in the Continental Classic this year.
Right, yeah.
Then you had next up the TBS Championship up for grabs. Mercedes Moné defending against Hikaru Shida in a rematch from AEW Dynamite a few weeks back. Moné attacked Shida right at the bell of this one as the crowd had dueling chants from the start. Shida with a series of misdirection drop kicks, 4 in a row, gets a near fall. We get a stretch muffler applied before Shida released the hold and hit another drop kick right to a seated Moné. She drapes Moné on the apron and hits a charging knee lift. Moné battled back with a diving double knees as Tony Schiavone and Taz are getting heated on commentary, with Taz saying it's ridiculous Moné has to go into this match without her heater. Camille and Moné mockingly bows at Shida, keeping her grounded until Moné hits a leaping double knees to the midsection in the corner. After a series of whip reversals, Shida won the exchange and followed up with a missile dropkick off the second rope. Corner punches and bunches from Shida, who went for a wild shot, but Moné countered beautifully into a crossface. Shida managed to spin to her feet and clock Moné into a double down. Moné opted to talk trash, which only pissed Shida off, so she hits a stiff slap and a couple of forearms. Pump knee hit flush on Moné as Shida went to the top rope, but Moné charged at her and hit a lung blower. Sunset flip powerbomb out of the corner by Moné, and she followed up with the charging double knees for a 2. Mercedes kept toying with Shida before hitting the 3 amigos. She went up to the top rope and went for the frog splash, but Shida got her knees up. She gets a series of rolling falcon arrows and it gets a near fall. Moné blocked the katana and hit a knee breaker and a violent dragon screw leg whip before hitting a backstabber for a 2 count. Shida no-sold but delivered a German suplex and charging knee for a 2. Despite missing the first one, Shida waffled Moné with a very stiff katana flushed in the head. I think this just knocked Mercedes loopy because of what happened in the finish here. She hits like 2 more katanas and she gets like a 1 on the near fall at the 3 katanas, and Mercedes just no-sells it. She just rolls out of the ring. Then they fight over the kendo stick. You have Shida grabs the kendo stick. She wins the tug of war in an odd sequence. She then it looks like she's going to use the kendo stick, but wisely doesn't use it in front of the referee. She hits a question mark kick to Mercedes, but Mercedes then sidesteps a Meteora. She chop blocks her in the knee and then hits the moneymaker for the 1-2-3 to retain the TBS Championship. Post match, Camille comes out to celebrate with Mercedes, but the finish was just off here. I thought the match was good until like the last like 2 to 3 minutes of the matchup, and it just felt super clunky and really odd at that point. And Mercedes, I think she just has to basically admit to herself, the moneymaker does not work. It does not work. It never looks that well. It's never done that well. Just give it up. We need to start having the talk like we did with Tetsuya Naito earlier this year. Doing the Destino, we need to have that same talk with Mercedes and say, stop using the moneymaker. Kris, what did you think about this?
Mercedes. It was a good match.
Yeah, I gave it 3 1/4. By the way,
yeah, it was a fine match. It was. She did seem like after that shot, she seemed angry, kind of. That's what I got the impression of, especially when she retreated to the outside of the ring. Yeah, I don't know the story behind that, but it definitely seemed like once after that spot, she never kind of got quite into it in the same way. But it was yeah, the moneymaker. You know, I'm a Mercedes defender for forever, but yeah, I think like once you've tried something a few times and it keeps doing the same thing, you kind of have to like see what else is in your arsenal. But it wasn't Mercedes' best match in AEW, but I think it's if I was her, I wouldn't feel ashamed of the match, but I'd really understand that I could probably do better is what I'd say. So probably about 3.5 stars maybe for me.
Yeah, I enjoyed the matchup, and I agree with Big Man Dogs. Probably their TV match was better. I wouldn't say notably better, but I thought it was better. But it just felt like the finish was just off.
Yeah.
Josh,
same here.
What did you think about this one?
I like the match. It kind of felt like there was either something missing or like the last few minutes of it. Like I noticed like the spot where I know when Sheeta hit one of the moves, there was like a weird thing that happened. Like I guess it was like the no sell or whatever the case may be when she rolled out of the ring. Yeah. That was a little weird to me.
Yeah, same here.
I was like, all right, what was that about? And I know like they were focused on getting like the candlestick, but the way that kind of happened was a little weird. I mean, the match wasn't bad. It's just like I felt like they were missing either a gear or there was something just within the match that was missing. And with regards to the moneymaker, you know, I like the move I like it that it's unique. It's just that the fact that there's times where she hits it where it looks good. There's a lot of times where she hits it and like there's like no impact. You know what I mean? Like I think that's the problem too. Like, you know, when you have those kind of moves where, you know, if it's supposed to be a finisher, whatever the case may be, you want to see like the impact of it. This one, depending on who it is, sometimes there's like little to no impact. That's, you know, it is what it is when it comes to that. Maybe she'll find something else. I mean, I do like the fact that she does have like an alternative finisher. Right. Maybe that's why I kind of don't mind it too much, but I do agree. I'm like, there's times where like it does not look good when she hits it.
I think that she knows what the online sentiment is behind that move. So I think she's gonna keep doing it until she gets it over. I think she's just gonna keep on doing it. So, you know, it is what it is.
Hey. Do you, sis. Do you, sis. It's just not working. It's not working for me. It's not working, but we'll see. We'll see what happens with Mercedes. But next up, we had the AEW World Championship up for grabs. The scapegoat, Jack Perry, the TN champion, challenging Bryan Danielson for the AEW World Championship. You get Jack Perry with a special video package entrance where they're putting gasoline in the scapegoat bus while driving the streets of Chicago. and you hear like the police saying that there's a car with the scapegoat on it, a bus, so you gotta look out for it. The Young Bucks are waiting for him when he gets out of the bus with the TNT Championship as well as the scapegoat mask. A SWAT team members escort him to the ring onto the stage. Jim Ross joins the commentary team for the world title matchup, and then the champion comes out. And yes, once again, he's coming out to the final countdown. I was like, man, Tony Khan, you really want to spend? You're gonna spend all your money on all these entrances? Like the final countdown is like $20K every time he plays it. He's like, hey, gotta get my money's worth here. The crowd are really amped for Bryan here, and they were really amped throughout this matchup. Perry had an early takedown and then soaked in the boos from the crowd as he posed in front of Bryan, going to the floor and getting booed mercifully by the Chicago fans. Tests of strength back inside as Danielson answered back with takedowns. We get Jack Perry tries for a leapfrog, but Danielson catches him in midair, following up with a Romero special. Perry escaped to the outside as Danielson hits a baseball slide and then follows up with a big springboard somersault dive. Shotgun drop kick back inside and sent Perry right back out to the floor, where he met a charging Danielson off the apron with a thrust kick and a draping DDT, spiking Danielson on his bad neck. Perry mocked the crowd and before drop kicking Danielson into the barricade. Back inside, Perry remained in control. He hit some hard chops on Danielson, waking him up, who chopped him right back, crotching Perry in the corner, hammer and anvil elbows before he hit a big back superplex, with Danielson clutching his neck in the aftermath, even though he executed the move. He gets up and he delivers some yes kicks, but before the home run shot, Perry ducks and gets a jackknife cover. Danielson bridges out into a label lock. After releasing the hold, Danielson hit the 10 corner punches, backflipping out of the corner, but Perry dropped him with a drop toe hold and got in the snare trap. The snare trap was transitioned into the cattle mutilation by Danielson. Danielson powered out, but Perry folded him up with a snap German suplex, another that brought things to the apron. They traded kicks and chops on the apron before Danielson hit a brutal-looking butterfly suplex to the floor. Back inside, Danielson punted the left arm and started talking shit to Jack Perry, saying, "You think you're tough? You think you're tough?" Danielson went for a home run kick, but Perry was able to sink in the snare trap once again, but Danielson got to the ropes. Cry Me a River chants loudly from the Chicago crowd as Perry went for a comeback lariat, but Danielson got in an inside cradle for a 2. Following a high kick by Danielson, he went for a corner charge, but Perry pulled the referee in the way. Danielson said that it's time for Perry to get his fucking head kicked in, but this led to the Young Bucks coming out to interfere. They hit the TK driver on the bad neck of Danielson as we get the Blackpool Combat Club eventually come out to make the save. Claudio Castagnoli went so fast through the ring, it looked like he slid from one side of the ring to the other to get after Matthew and Nicholas. Perry scurried to the referee to wake him up. He then hits the glass jaw knee strike, but Danielson is able to kick out. Perry stomps on his head, kicking his effing head in before he started doing the yes chants and flipping off the crowd at the same time. The delay allowed Danielson to turn him inside out with one of the best psycho knees that Danielson has ever hit. This dude, Jack Flaherty, flew from one side of the ring to the other after getting hit with the psycho knee. That was a well-done spot right there. Both men slugged it out. A slap woke up Danielson, so Perry started slapping him some more, but he lights up Perry with a big rolling elbow. Perry no-sold a German suplex, but was turned inside out with another psycho knee. We get a 1-2, and Perry kicks out at 2.99. Danielson starts stomping his head in again, finally kicking his effing head in. He signals for the end. He gets in the corner. He does the yes chant, and Perry, showing defiance, showing that he's willing to sacrifice for one of his best matches of his career. He puts up the Raven double arms as he gets hit with a third psycho knee. 1, 2, 3. Bryan Danielson retains the AEW World Championship. I thought this was a terrific world title matchup. Perry getting over in one of his probably his best match as a heel that we've seen from him, as well as character work and in-ring work. This was his best work since turning heel. I give it 4.25 stars. But man, oh man, the post-match gets 5 stars. This is a 5-star post-match. You get Bryan Danielson celebrating the win with the world title. When Killswitch appears from behind him, he lays him out with a big headbutt, and we get a great moment with the former Jurassic Express members who have completely changed from their time as AEW World Tag Team Champions. Perry kind of looking confused, like, is Killswitch out here to help me? But then the music of Christian Cage hit, and I'm like, oh no, are they going to do the cash in now? Now he has the Casino Gauntlet contract in his hand. He comes out with Mother Wayne and Nick Wayne by his side. But then out of nowhere, Jon Moxley appears and blocks Christian and the Patriarchy's way to the ring. PAC, Claudio Castagnoli, and Wheeler Yuta appear as well to stop the Patriarchy. The Patriarchy retreat as Moxley gets in the ring, as Danielson's doing the yes chance to celebrate his win. Moxley gets in the ring first, and he hugs Danielson in an emotional display, kissing him on the forehead. They say thank you to one another as they go forehead to forehead. But you may notice Moxley is facing Claudio, and as he walks away from Claudio, he just gives him a subtle nod. We get the whole BCC raising hands with one another as Claudio is raising Danielson's hand. You see PAC hugging Wheeler Yuta. And then out of nowhere, Claudio Castagnoli blindsides the AEW World Champion with a European uppercut. Danielson falls on his ass and is completely shocked. What is going on here? And in behind him, you see Jon Moxley has a plastic bag. He takes something out of the plastic bag, and then he wraps the plastic bag around Danielson's head, basically suffocating him, choking him out. As he's doing all of this, Wheeler Yuta is watching on as PAC holds him and makes him watch his father figure, Bryan Danielson, being suffocated and choked out by Jon Moxley, who's just choking him mercilessly. You get Marina Shafir come out as referees and officials try to stop this beatdown. Marina Shafir is beating up the referee, tossing them aside. We get the fans in Chicago screaming, "This is murder! This is murder!" Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, PAC, and Marina Shafir, they leave Danielson laying. They don't touch it. They don't put a hand on Yuta. They just made him watch all of this as they finally let go of Yuta, and Yuta runs over to tend to Danielson. Moxley leaves with a new faction as it seems that the Blackpool Combat Club have turned on Bryan Danielson, leaving him laying. The crowd was now completely silent as doctors come in with oxygen to bring Danielson back, and he is basically not even stretcher job. They carry him out with the oxygen on his face as this crowd is just like stunned at what they just saw. Wow, what an angle. This is one of the best angles AEW has done all year because they set it up very wisely after All In with Moxley's return, and this is not your company anymore, and Marina Shafir associating with them, and the questions had been like, what's going on? Is he still with the Blackpool Combat Club? Is he turning on the Blackpool Combat Club? Is he starting his own faction? You have PAC, who's with Wheeler Yuta and Claudio Castagnoli as the World Trios Champions. What's going on there? How did PAC just forgive everything that's happened between them? And then you get a lot of different answers here, but you're still left with a whole bunch of questions. 5-star angle, in my opinion, because it sets up a mouth-watering matchup for the AEW World Championship between Jon Moxley and Bryan Danielson, with the extra caveat that Bryan Danielson has never beaten Jon Moxley in AEW. He is 0-2 against Moxley in their previous matches. This was so well done. Kris, what did you think about the matchup between Danielson and Perry, and then the post-match with BCC betraying Bryan Danielson.
Okay, so I'll start with the match with Perry and Danielson. Thought it was a good match. I am missing and y'all will tell me if I'm wrong or miscalculating. I am missing the magic with Jack Perry. I think he's good when you put a lot of smoke and mirrors and bells and whistles with them, but whatever, man. He managed to get himself in the main event, so cool. But yeah, I thought the match itself was fine. I did like the little handoff where he and Kill Switch kind of, acknowledged each other. The post-match stuff I thought was great, and I loved and it was one of those turns that you saw coming, but the way they did it was not like they do other wrestling turns, right? So they had Bryan Danielson, instead, like, he gets hit by Claudio, and instead of just falling down and being knocked out, they show his reaction to him getting hit by Claudio, which I thought was just a great caveat to it. I thought that was perfect. And then when they beat him down, they hold Wheeler Yuta, and instead of like beating him down too, they just have him kind of watch it, and like he's got to react to it. It's a very good hook for Wednesday. So I thought this is one of the not even just the best turn I've seen in AEW out of like this kind of thing. I think this is one of my favorites I've seen in wrestling. I thought they did this like all the beats they hit and just that I give that definitely gets 5 stars from me,
Yeah, like Emmanuel said, the post match was cinema. It was cinema in the best way possible, and you're 100% on point, Kris, with the way it was done was not what we expected. They kind of put the breadcrumbs leading to this with Moxley's return and him being very cryptic with everything he's saying, him calling Jack Perry a sweet kid, wanting to talk to Darby before his world title matchup. They put the breadcrumbs and made you believe that Moxley would turn, but you did not expect Claudio to be a part of it. You did not expect PAC to be a part of it. You didn't expect Wheeler Yuta put on one of his best emotional performances of his career. Like, he sold it, and it felt like he was representing all the fans that were shocked and didn't want to see the most beloved man in wrestling, Bryan Danielson, be attacked in this way with a plastic bag, trying to kill him, suffocate him to death by Jon Moxley. This was so well done. And I do see what you're saying with Jack Perry, and a lot of people, especially in our chat, in our community, and of course my co-host on AE Ramble, Jimmy Macaram, they don't see what's the big deal with Jack Perry. But I thought that performance-wise, character-wise, he did a great job in this matchup here. So that's why I gave him love for that. But Josh, what did you think about Perry versus Danielson and the post-match with BCC?
It was a solid match. I thought Jack did well, given the circumstances of just getting the title match, being the plug-in for Danielson to get a title defense in. He did some good selling on those knees. Like, that was like some of the best selling I've seen when it comes to like that flying knee. So he did a really good job when it comes to that. And then like how it ended where he knew he was losing, so he just said like fuck it. I thought that was great. And then when it comes to the post match, like I said before, it was like a little, it was intriguing. I was intrigued because I was just like, wait a minute, isn't Mox like beating the shit out of everybody? And then like all of a sudden he's helping out Danielson. I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? And then all of a sudden, like when the turn happened, I was like, all right, cool. Like, finally, there's something like significant when it comes to like what Mox has been doing, because he's just been very cryptic at this point. Like, it's been something different from Mox, but it's been very cryptic. I think there's a difference between being cryptic and something being bad. So I was always, ever since he came back with this little angle that he's going on, I'm like, I wonder where the hell this is going. And they're gonna add new members, all that stuff, like, makes you think. So the way that they went about it, I mean, it was great. And then, like I said, Mox has been playing Manhunt, so that was great. That was pretty funny to see.
We do have a few super chat donations here. Thank you so much, Bala B, who says Jack Perry straight up flew on that Psycho knee. Yo, he went from like the middle of the ring all the way to the ropes. That sell was fantastic. He says that post match though, I really hope Yuta turns 2 just to keep the trio's belts together. I don't know. I kind of like the fact that Yuta doesn't seem all the way with it, and he had to watch everything. But I do think that if you want the trios titles to be together, it is a good sign that they never attacked Yuta. They just made him watch because he had him. They didn't tell him what was about to happen. They just made him watch. They never attacked him. Like you could actually see if you watch it back. Claudio tells PAC to let him go. And he says, let's go. And then he lets Willie go before he checks on Danielson. So they make sure to not lay a hand really on Yuta in this. So maybe they just have to, that's like Mox was to have the conversation with Darby. Maybe Claudio has to have the conversation with Wheeler.
Right, and they can milk it for a little while too. It's not something they have to rush into because I will say I wasn't planning on watching AEW live this Wednesday, but I think I'm going to stick around because I do want to see where this goes. So I think this is a good hook in my opinion. So
agreed with you there. We got another super chat donation, this time from Alexander Fitzgerald. Thank you so much, good brother, for the love. He says, only in pro wrestling where we can get a "this is arson" chant and a "this is murder" chant in 1 week. We really are sickos. You're sickos and you don't report crimes and you're snitches.
Right,
how you don't report crimes, but you still a snitch.
I think it speaks to the way fans take these things in now. Because if this happened in the 80s, people would have been like, the reaction would have been more like visceral and angry and stuff. And now in 2024, people are just kind of acknowledging this is, they're having fun with it, which is, I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. I just think it's just the time we're living in, and like, this is the wrestling part of it. You kind of have to suspend your disbelief when you get some like arson and fucking suffocate with a plastic bag is like that. You could murder someone doing that. Like seriously, that kind of suffocation is, I mean, I've seen like those true crime stories, and that is something you got to be careful with. But I get what you're saying, but yeah, it's the new times, man.
We got Alexander. He also adds Jim Ross's commentary during that post-match beatdown.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Jim Ross did that was some of Jim Ross's best work of the year. Best work in a couple of years because he's like, no, this is too far.
This isn't wrestling. He was his anger was so great at this. And that thank you for bringing that up because I forgot to mention that. But yeah, JR and he's great in moments like this where you want that kind of emotional reaction. Somebody there that's like supposed to be just a bystander. They're just there to report the news. He's supposed to be unbiased, but you see some fucking shit like this and it's like, what the hell, man? It's like, I don't get paid enough to do this,
Can't report on this crime right now. I'm sorry.
Right.
And Power Driver Finisher makes a good point. He says they're still teaching Yuta. This was another lesson for Yuta.
Mm-hmm.
Basically. I like that.
Well, this guy needs teaching. It's been like how long?
Yeah, I know. Like, I mean, I get what he's saying, but it's like he's gonna have to come to his own, come to Jesus moment, and that's what I like about it, man. Because how long are you gonna be the student, you know? And you see some shit like this, you have to draw your fucking line in the sand, my dude. You know, it's like
you gotta choose. You gotta pick a side. But I like the fact that they're putting him like in the middle of all this. Is he
right?
gonna
Yeah,
stick
me too.
Bryan,
Yeah.
or is he gonna go into this more like evil side? And I hope it's not just a different variation of the Blackpool Combat Club. You can make it a combat club, but make it something more akin to what Moxley's doing. Make it a different name.
I definitely think they're changing the name. I don't see them being the Blackpool Combat Club much longer.
Yeah, I agree there. All right, guys. It's time to talk about some more murder. For this one was the main event of the evening. Hangman Adam Page versus Swerve Strickland, Part 4. Some of this stuff is very uncomfortable to talk about, but this is what we came to talk about.
Yeah.
So we saw earlier in the night, Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland arrived at the building with a bunch of security around them. Basically, they said not only to keep both men from each other, but also to keep everyone backstage safe from what these two men want to do to one another. So both men came out to the ring with the security around them. Very great character moments in just the entrances to this matchup. You had Hangman Adam Page for the first time since turning heel in February, folks. They did this double turn in February. For the first time since February, he came out through the heel entrance. He's always believed he's still in the right. He's still the babyface of this story. But after setting Swerve's house on fire on Wednesday, he's finally accepted that he is the bad guy now. So he came down the heel tunnel. Swerve Strickland comes out, and he is surrounded by security, as well as Prince Nana, who's looking very serious while doing his dance. And I love the gear for Swerve Strickland, where he has freaking Hangman burning the house on the back of his shirt. You get that image on his back. Hangman's entrance video is not what it was before. It's just him with the burning of the house in the entrance video too. Immediately, as soon as Swerve gets into the ring and the cage starts lowering, he attacks and charges at Hangman. Nana threw a table into the ring as both Strickland and Page tried to hold each other in place to decapitate each other with the lowering cage on their head. Tony Khan is a freak. Wouldn't you think that the owner of the company would stop the cage lowering when you see they're trying to maim each other? Prince Nana quickly saved Strickland as the cage is down, and the match officially began with a slugfest between one another. Both blocked being thrown into the cage before Swerve hit a rolling flatliner and a house call immediately as the cage is lowered. Nana is literally yelling at Swerve to kill Page. He hits a release German suplex and went to a bucket to bring out a staple gun to Hangman. Hangman gets the staple gun and starts stapling Swerve in his chest, who no-sells each and every staple shot to his chest. Oh my God. He just laughs at him. He then reverses thing and gets the staple gun. He starts stapling Hangman in his lower back, in his spine. Swerve slowly pulls the staples out of his chest as he looks straight into the camera and starts smiling as his chest starts leaking. He pulls out of his pocket pictures of his family, his childhood family that he showed in the video when he bought his childhood home, and he starts stapling the pictures to Hangman. He staples one to his chest, then he gets another one and staples it to his face, and then rips the picture off of his face. Swerve slowly continues his attack by slamming Page into the cage walls, standing on the ropes, but Page sweeps the leg, crotching Swerve. Page then wraps a barbed wire around his hand and starts hits a springboard clothesline where both men are bleeding at this point. He starts ramming Swerve's face into the cage. He screams at the crowd, if this is their man, is this your man? Is this your man? Page continues to throw Swerve into the cage walls, going back to the barbed wire, wrapping it in the cage and driving Swerve's head into it. Page rakes Swerve face first into the barbed wire, and then realize when he goes for a buckshot lariat that he can't do it because it's a different type of steel cage than AEW has used in the past. In the past, they've used a very big steel cage, which is around the apron instead of on the apron like this one was. So he's unable to hit his signature move. That delay allows Swerve to briefly fight back, but was ultimately flapjacked back into the cage. For some reason, Paul Turner tries to stop Page from using a steel chair. This allows Swerve to hit a house call. He tries for a buckshot lariat off of Turner's back, but didn't really hit it. That was the only kind of spot that they botched throughout this matchup, but it just added to like the craziness and the carnage. Sometimes botches, I don't mind too much if it's this wild brawl. Chair shots echo throughout the arena as Swerve is relentless with the attack. He was not laying up with these chair shots. He hits a lawn dart, brutally hitting Hangman's head into a chair in the corner, and he goes for the first pinfall, only getting a 2. He then busts out a fucking cinder block, and it's like, reminiscence of the days of being hit in the crotch and face respectively, says Taz and Jim Ross. Strickland somehow manages a fucking vertebraker on the cinder block where fucking, oh my God, Hangman went so low on his back for this vertebraker, and you can see a gnarly mark, a gnarly bruising on his back. Swerve then sets up a table, but Page cuts him off. Swerve battles back as he's on the top rope, and so is Hangman, and he hits a swerve stomp with Hangman on the second rope and drives him through the table. He only gets a 2 count there. Strickland took too long to capitalize as Page hits a desperation deadeye, but only gets a 2. Page pulls out a piece of burnt wood from the house from Strickland's childhood home and tries to impale Swerve, who countered with an arm breaker to get the spike and turn the tables. He then starts stabbing Page in the head with the spike and almost had tears in his eyes as he looked at the spike, realizing that that's part of his childhood home. Page hits a low blow and then follows up with a power bomb onto the cinder block in an absolutely brutal looking spot where Swerve went so low that hit his spine. I was like, he's going to feel that in the morning. Page delivers punches against the cage, but Swerve fought back. He power bombs him into the cage wall and then hits the craziest looking house call where you could see Hangman's face go directly into the cage. He goes to the top rope looking for the swerve stomp, but he looks to the top of the cage and almost goes for the swerve stomp off the top of the cage. But as he's climbing, Page cuts him off and hits an awesome bomb. He then follows up with a dead eye, but Swerve is able to kick out. Page demands for him to beg for mercy as he decks him in the head. Nana pleads with Swerve to think about himself, but Strickland simply laughs and holds up the 2 to Hangman, symbolizing that he's 2-0 against him. But then he collapsed at Page's feet. Strickland's grill was ripped out of his mouth by Page, and then Page pulls out a fucking syringe. I was like, what the fuck am I watching? He then plucks him in the mouth with the needle, and the needle is hanging out of Swerve's mouth. He just injected him with drugs. Oh my God, with numbing drugs to his fucking gums. He then grabs a steel chair and gives him one of the most brutal, ugly looking chair shots right to the head, breaking the chair over Swerve's head. They try to cut the camera to avoid all the controversy that they got during Blood and Guts, but you can tell that this was a brutal chair shot to the head. Referee Paul Turner calls for the bell. The Page gets the win, finally defeating Swerve Strickland via referee stoppage. Commentary says that they hope that Page feels like they're even now. As you can see, Page having like this sombering kind of revelation and relief as the cage is brought up, he kind of gets out of the ring. He sits on the apron. He's looking back at Swerve at various points. He gets to the top of the ramp, and he looks like he's about to go back to inflict more damage. But if you zoom in on him, you watch the replay again, he has a quivering lip. Like he finally, for the first time, has a bit of remorse. But then he realizes that this is the revenge and the vengeance he wants. And he just goes off and celebrates and has this primal scream like he just busted the hugest nut of revenge ever. He's like, he just goes crazy in victory. Oh my God. The storytelling was off the charts. The violence was almost too far. It went over the line that it probably should have, but it was so appropriate for this hate-filled blood feud that was this. I gave PAC and Ospreay 5 stars because they gave a state-of-the-art professional wrestling. But storytelling-wise, this is also 5 stars. This was one of the most violent, brutal, bloody, and visceral matches I think I've ever seen. This is right on par with the Texas Death Match. I think that I'll take the Texas Death Match over this one, but both matches are perfect for the hatred and the drama and the emotion that this feud has brought us. 5 stars in my book. Kris, what did you think about the lights out steel cage match?
Yeah, it was interesting, man, because it's like I harken back to WrestleMania where they had with Roman and Cody and all the like corniness at the end of that match, but it was corny in a different way with all the like false finishes and whatnot. This was a little, I can't even explain it. Like trying to drug the guy, you know.
I felt uncomfortable. The syringe coming out, I felt uncomfortable. But like right. You said, it's like an Earth 2 version of Cody and Roman, where it just felt right. It felt right. It felt like cinema there, but cinema in the sports entertainment way. This felt like a horror film. Like a very brutal horror film.
Right, yeah. And it will be interesting to see where they go if they continue this feud. Because I don't know how you drug a guy and then when the guy comes to not want to kill you after that. So it was different, man. It was the commentary for this I thought was pretty on point as well. But yeah, I liked it. I don't even know if giving it a star rating will do it justice. I do like though that AEW, you're starting to see who their top talent is, with Swerve and Ospreay. I think those are the guys you gotta kind of build around. And like, even though Swerve lost the world title a couple weeks ago, he's still in the mix, and the fans still obviously care about him. So I think that this was in spite of the craziness of the main event, this was a good. I thought the ending was serviceable. I liked it.
Josh, what did you think about the lights out steel cage match? You're muted, Josh.
It was like watching a Saw movie. That's how it felt. I mean, like, I knew it was gonna be violent, right? Because we had the Texas Death Match, but I didn't know it was gonna be like this violent. Like at times it made you feel uncomfortable. Like the cinder block spot, like the first one, like that's where I was like, oh my God. Because it wasn't only just like imagining how much it hurts, but then when you saw his back, like the way that his back, the impact hit his back.
Oh yeah.
So like the redness and the blood, I was like, oh boy, like this is what both of these guys are doing. Cool. but it was needed. I mean, again, like every time, like we've said before, right? Every time you put Swerve and Hangman together, they've delivered, and then this is no different. I do like the fact that Hangman won via knockout, because it still makes Swerve doesn't.
Yeah,
Swerve doesn't
drug the guy to win.
Yeah, he doesn't lose anything from it.
I never thought I would hear that on a review of wrestling. He had to drug him to win.
And then, he was knocked out, so he wasn't pinned, he wasn't submitted. And I know regards to the camera spot, I know a lot of people are saying oh, they messed it up, they fucked up. I think that was by design.
Right. Yeah.
It didn't bother me that much. I know, I was like, no, I mean, you still see it. They cut, and then you see it further out, and they hit him with the chair. And I get it I think they did that because of the whole Jack Perry thing. But then, people are using the fact that, during that night, that Mox put a bag over Danielson's face, and, they did this and that. But at the same time, I mean, you also got to look at the circumstances of each match or each thing. So, and when it comes to headshots, I mean, because we all know the whole Mox and Danielson thing, we all know that's that, Danielson is fine, right? Nothing's happening but when it comes to headshots, when it comes to chair shots, that's something that people are very sensitive about no matter what. Mm-hmm. So I get the fact, I get what they did. I liked it. I didn't mind it too much because I'm we all know what happened. He knocked him the fuck out because of the chair shot. So I was fine with it.
Mm-hmm.
We got a good question here from Big Man Dogs. He says, what do you think was in the syringe? I have heard multiple theories. Ibu from Wrestle Period said it was Ebola. I think it was knockout gas. I think it was whatever they give to numb your jaw before he fucking caved his head in with the chair.
Yeah, maybe some what the propofol or whatever.
I think he watches too many documentaries.
Right, yeah.
What's wrong with this man?
Mm-hmm.
We do have a super chat donation here from Vala B once again. Thank you so much, Vala B, always for the support. We appreciate you. He says, I love this match, but also fuck this match, and I hope I never see the shit I've seen here again. Hangers.
Oh, you're gonna see it again, pal. You're gonna see it again. Some way, somehow.
I said they can't give us another death match between these two.
Not these two.
A world title matchup.
Not from these two. You're not probably gonna see it again from these two, but we're gonna end up seeing it. That's just what.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is Sid was saying, this is an elseworld version of Cody Roman. It's this is how WWE does their brand of Cordy shit. This is how we do our brand of Cordy shit, man. So if you love that Cody Roman match, you really, I mean, this is just a crazy extension of it because it's they're doing illegal shit that's illegal, so I mean, I'm cool with it. Hey.
He committed arson. I think sticking it with the needle is on par with arson. I think you probably get maybe 2 less years with the arson. He also said Hanger's cinematic post-match just perfect. It was he finally realized how far he had to take things to finally get that measure of revenge, and he just had the relief scream, and he the look on his face was just he is so evil now. What is that was another thing, another great cliffhanger moment, the BCC betrayal of Bryan Danielson. I'm watching Wednesday on Dynamite to be what do you do with Hangman Adam Page next? What's next for him after he went this far with Swerve? What's his next mission? What is his next thing that he can focus in and become obsessed about like this? He's an amazing character. He's one of the best characters in professional wrestling today.
Oh, Hangman?
Yeah.
Yeah, he always finds it's crazy. He's always kind of kept the same thing, his look, right, in his gimmick. But then he always finds new ways of like elevating it. Like, we had the drunk Hangman where he'll just come out and drink everybody's beer and drink his own beer. And then, we had the redemption Hangman where he's going after Omega. He wins the title. And then now we have this heel Hangman who's unhinged, right? It's not only that, it's not the fact that he's just heel. It's the fact that he's unhinged and batshit crazy. That's what makes it good.
He's lost his fucking mind. That's what he's done. He's a maniac now. We got Safed. He says this main event was wild. Valabi thinks it was Novocaine. That's a good call. Novocaine.
That's cool.
That's why he took out the grills so that he would be affected by the Novocaine. We got Safet says 5 stars for him. We got Big Man Dogs. He says next Hangman versus Swerve match needs to be a pure rules match.
I know, right?
Imagine that's like that's the only thing they haven't given us. I Big B says great main event. Nice to have a bit of carnage. 4.5 for him. Big Man Doug says I can't give this a star rating because this actually bummed me out, made me uncomfortable. But that was sort of the point. Yeah,
right.
So that means it was perfect.
Come on, Big Man Dogs, don't. Come on, Big Man Dogs, don't be pussy. Come on, give a star rating.
He's calling you out, Big Man Dogs. He's like, give a star rating. Don't be like Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez, who didn't want to give it a star rating because it was too much for them.
That's what they said.
Yeah, Brian Alvarez.
Alvarez is very sensitive with that. Brian Alvarez, he's very sensitive when it comes to violent and death matches. He's very like he's always been a bitch about it. I mean, I get why, because of I guess he used to train like in wrestling and shit. So he kind of like sympathizes with people who put their bodies on the line when it comes to that. But at the same time, I'm like, if a performer is willing, if they're willing to do that, then it's like I'm okay with it, right? Like if somebody, like if you're in agreement, then I'm okay with it. It's only a different story if somebody's not in agreement, right? Like say if both guys didn't want to do this, then that's a different story because now you're forcing people to do it. But if they're okay, then it's like, hey, right? It is what it is.
You got Big Man Dogs got called out, so he decided. He said, "Just kidding. I guess 4 3/4. I don't know. Laugh my ass off." And he says, "Damn, Meltzer and I align again."
Well, I think I mean, here's the thing with the match like that. I don't have kids myself, but I do imagine myself being like a father, or even if I take one of my nephews and nieces to a show like this, and I'm like, oh yeah, we're gonna see some good family entertainment, and then you got motherfuckers like syringing people and drugging them and stuff like that, and plastic bags over their face and all that kind of stuff. You gotta have a long talk with these kids after something like this, So
I'm never showing one of my kids this match.
Yeah, and I think also like that's a good. I think that's also a good conversation. But I also see the other hand, where it's like the parent should be responsible, and you should know what you're getting yourself into, right? It's
how would you know you were gonna get into this?
But being aware of AEW, of what they do, of what kind of the stuff that they do, kind of stipulations, right? So it's like if AEW announces a Texas Death Match, we know it's gonna be violent as fuck. So it's like at that point, you're doing it to yourself if you bring your kid, and that's advertised, right? That match is advertised, so you know what they're gonna do. That's on you to decide if
you saw the Swerve and Hangman Texas Death Match, you knew that it could go to this level, and it did.
Once it's unsanctioned, once they made it unsanctioned, I'm like, all right.
What's the name of that little kid that used to do the press conferences? And then I haven't seen that kid back at the press conferences after CM Punk went on that conniption fit and start cussing everybody out and shit. Like it is AEW, man. You can't even go to the press conference. You can't take kids to the press conferences either.
It's kind of like if I was. It's like if I was to go to an indie show, right? Like if I was to go to like a GCW show, and I'm bringing my kid. I'm like, it's probably not a good thing to do to bring your kid to a GCW show.
Nah.
No, not at all. We got another super chat donation here from Christopher Kidd. Thank you so much, Christopher, for the love. He says Omega belongs to Okada. Now Hangman has his forever dancing partner in Swerve. Kudos to AEW for taking the time to cultivate a cinematic masterpiece. There was so many masterpieces on this show, but yeah, this was a violent masterpiece that they put together. And the character work, I think the character work and the storytelling is why I say it's a 5-star matchup, because that it had that top-notch, unreal, unbelievable, unforgettable type of chemistry between these two guys. And you got to talk about the trust that these two guys have to have in one another to go there for the cinder block spots, for that flawless freaking swerve stomp through the table, and just the syringe and everything to close the show. They have to have unreal trust in one another to do that. So hats off to both Hangman and Swerve.
And if Meltzer is to be believed, then in WBD, they love Swerve, so they kind of like gave him an extra layer in this match as well. So I think AEW should be happy with this effort,
Yeah, and Meltzer did note during the Wrestling Observer Radio that this was considered a write-off for Swerve as well, and that he's going to have some time off following this matchup, and it's well-deserved. This man just put on, in my opinion, 2 5-star instant classics in the last 2 pay-per-view main events.
Pay-per-views, but then also, man, he's been like, when you want to talk about like media appearances and all that stuff, he's been like that top person for them. Like he's been like, he hasn't had a break. Like, so he definitely, well deserved time off, especially after this.
Thanks. But that's going to bring us to the end of our pay-per-view review. Final call for super chat donations. But you know how we cap things off here on the True Hill Heat YouTube channel. We're going to give you our match of the night, MVP, LVP, thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle, and out of 10, what did we give the show? You guys do the same in the live chat and join the conversation as well. But for me, Kris, and Josh, for AEW All Out 2024, in 3, 2, 1. Thumbs up across the board from all of us. Kris, out of 10, what did you give this show?
I give it like a 9.5. I thought the show was very, very good. I loved, there wasn't anything I didn't like on the show. Even though I only saw it this morning and had to speed watch it, I am going to go back and do a long form watching of it when I get off of here. And I thought what I saw was great. So, I got no complaints.
Josh, what about you?
Same 9.5, because again, the show overall good pace, and honestly, there was not a bad match. There was not a bad match on the card, right? The only match you could really say, and I wouldn't even say bad, is maybe the Mercedes and Sheeta match, right? That match, it was just missing something. But overall, I think a lot of performers delivered last night.
Indeed. I'm going to go 9 out of 10. I'll put it right on par with All In and Revolution for the best shows of the year. Like, AEW has given us 3 amazing pay-per-view events this year, with Sting's final match at Revolution, the stadium event, and Bryan Danielson finally winning the world title at All In, and then everything that happened last night between PAC and Ospreay, Willow and Statlander, BCC turning on Bryan, and then the main event being this violent, unreal matchup. Just an amazing show from top to bottom, and one of the best shows, best pay-per-views of the year. Josh, what was your match of the night?
Match of the night itself, I'm gonna give it to Ospreay and PAC.
Ospreay and PAC. Kris, what about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Ospreay and PAC too. I thought they, this is just a classic from them.
I really wanted to go Ospreay and PAC, but I gotta be different. Y'all know I'm gonna be different. I'm gonna go with Hangman and Swerve. I gave both of those matches 5 stars. I might even go 5-star plus on a second rewatch of this when I do my star ratings. But Jesus Christ, this was just unreal. Those two matches on the same show. That's unbelievable, in my opinion. With Willow and Statlander, in my opinion, the best AEW women's match of the year as well. Your MVP for the show, Kris?
Probably Ospreay. I ask me again, but right now it's Ospreay. That's what I'm going with.
Who you got MVP for the show, Josh?
I'm going with Hangman. He burned the man's house. He wins the match, and he didn't get arrested in any incident.
I got co-MVPs for this one. I'm going to go Hangman for picking up the win on here. I'm going to go with Ospreay for delivering yet another match of the year candidate this year. PAC for delivering one of his best matches of his whole entire career. And then the final two is Willow and Kris Statlander for giving me one of the best violent women's matches of all time. Those are my co-MVPs for the show. LVP for the show, Josh.
Damn, that's a good one. LVP. Damn, I gotta think. Come back to me. I gotta decide.
Kris?
Yeah, I'm trying to decide too. I guess probably the Acclaim. Even though I didn't see the match, the clips, I think that the act is stale. You know, they need to do something else with those cats.
I would say co-LVP, I'll give it to the Acclaimed, and not for his performance. This is strictly in kayfabe. Swerve Strickland, because he's waking up because he got stabbed in the mouth with a syringe and then got a concussion off a steel chair shot. So two different reasons, but those are my LVPs because the Acclaim is stale as hell and Swerve just got marked in the main event.
If it was Novocaine, I'd love to see like Britt Baker complaining about Hangman going through her shit and stealing her Novocaine or something like that on Wednesday.
Fair. Josh?
Talking about how dangerous that is to use without the proper training or whatever.
That would be excellent. I would love that. Josh?
Yeah, I'll go with the Acclaim. Like I said earlier, 2 years ago, this was like one of the hottest acts, and this is like the same town, same arena. Everyone was like, there was an audible call on them to win the titles, and now 2 years later, it's like, oh, okay, cool.
It's like pre-show. Bye-bye. Pre-show, forget about you. And the opening match of the pre-show. So if any of the matches out of the people that went there that they missed, they probably missed the Acclaim match. So yeah, that is a downgrade for them. But that brings us to a close on this pay-per-view review. I want to thank the True Jaw Josh and Professor Kris. That was so much fun analyzing, breaking down, and recapping what went down last night in Chicago, Illinois. One of the best pay-per-views of the year for AEW, and keeping the tradition of All Out being one of their best shows of the year. Professor Kris, thank you as always for joining us. And I believe the next AEW pay-per-view is on a Saturday as well, Wrestle Dream next month. So I'm going to extend the open invite to you for that as well. But until then, let everybody know where they can follow you.
Yeah, follow me on KM Easy Does It on Twitter. I refuse to call that shit X. And then, I'm just all over the social media. So if you Google Christopher Ely, Christopher with a K, I'm sure I'll come up, just, that's just that right now I'm just busy in political stuff. So just check me out.
Josh, let everybody know where they can follow you, good sir.
JM Punk 321 Twitter and Instagram, and I'll be back this Saturday for Chill Heat episode 294.
Indeed. You can follow me on the Twitter machine at TrueHillSP3. Follow the gang, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at True Hill Heat. patreon.com/Trio Heat. TNA Emergence review is up now over there at patreon.com. So for $3 a month, you get exclusive content. And that's the best place to support us when we are not live here. I don't think we have anything on the docket for tomorrow. So finally a day off from live streams for me on here. But I will be over at the True Heel Heat Sports and Entertainment YouTube channel with our review of Power Book 2 Ghost Season 4, Episode 6. So join us for that. And check out all the great content we got on the channel right now, like True Heel Heat 293, a recap of last week in pro wrestling, Odyssey Jones firing, Julia's debut in WWE, Hangman burning down Swerve's house, and final predictions for AEW All Out, as well as the AEW lawsuit with Kevin Kelly. We discussed it all, so check that out. Me, Chrissy Love, and the True Jaw Josh. But I will be back here on the channel for sure, live 1:05 p.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday to review Monday Night Raw with Rated Raw Review. So until then, we hope you all enjoyed AEW All Out 2024. Want to thank everybody for joining us live, and go over to True Heel Heat Sports and Entertainment right now. As the fellas, I just put the link in the chat for all of you. Romeo and Stat King are watching the NFL opening Sunday, so join us over there for that. But until then, for Chris, for Josh, it is me, your True Heel Phenom SP3. This has been our AEW All Out 2024 review. We are signing off until next time.